The first thing you hear is your own breath, heavy, hollow, echoing inside the helmet like the heartbeat of a caged beast. The visor narrows your world, painting the galaxy in shades of blue and black. Out there, cantinas burn with neon lies, starships whisper across the void, and the guild waits with your next bounty puck. But behind the mask, you are no one. No name, no face, only Beskar and silence. You grip your blaster, and its weight drags you deeper into this life. You tell yourself it's choice, but deep down, you know the truth. You are not free. You are Mandalorian. You are the hunter, and this galaxy will never let you be anything else. So sit back, grab a snack, and let your imagination drift across the stars. And remember, if you enjoy this journey, subscribe, because the story of the galaxy is far from over. You hear it before you feel it, the hiss of pressurized air, the low hum of machinery surrounding you, the faint metallic vibration that creeps through the floor and into your bones. It is not silence you awaken to, but the strange chorus of machines breathing for you. You do not remember falling asleep, nor do you recall a yesterday. All you know is this: darkness pressed against your eyelids, and then a sound like life itself being forced into you. You open your eyes, though for a moment it feels as though you never had them before. There is no ceiling above you, no sky, no horizon, only the inside of a visor. Curved glass and dull readouts flicker to life in a cold green glow. Your vision is not your own. It is filtered, controlled, shaped into grids and symbols that dance across your sight. You try to move, but your body is heavy, sluggish, restrained. You hear your own breath echo, muffled, rhythmic, artificial, a breath that is not fully yours. The weight on your head is the first thing you notice, a crushing, encompassing weight, pressing down from every angle. It clings to your skull like a predator that has chosen you. The air is stale, recycled, and it tastes faintly of iron and antiseptic. Each inhale burns just a little, though you cannot explain why. You raise your hand to your face instinctively, but you don't feel skin. You don't feel warmth. You feel plastoid and durasteel. You feel armor. And then it dawns on you, the breath you hear, the weight you feel, the vision before your eyes, it all belongs to the helmet, the first prison you ever knew. You try to remember who you are, but memory is a slippery thing. Flashes, shadows, voices, none of them stay long enough to grasp. A childhood? A home? No, nothing but fragments, like smoke that slips through your fingers the harder you try to hold it. The only solid thing you know is the helmet, and the beast Odie beneath it, a body that feels both alien and entirely yours. You shift your shoulders and hear the creak of plastoid plates. The air smells faintly of oil and coolant. Somewhere close by, you hear footsteps, synchronized, heavy, deliberate. Others. You are not alone, and as you listen, you realize the breaths are not only yours. All around you, dozens of others breathe in perfect unison, as though every chest is tethered to the same invisible rhythm. The sound is suffocating. The sound is unity. The sound is control. Your vision adjusts, and you see the world beyond the visor. White walls stretch endlessly, sterile and unkind. Harsh lights burn from above, leaving no shadows to hide in. Soldiers line the hall, soldiers dressed like you, helmets identical to your own, armor gleaming under the lights. Their stance is rigid, flawless, inhuman. You look at them, and in them you see yourself. 1,000 reflections, 1,000 lives that aren't yours but could be. And you wonder, if they are you, then who are you? The answer doesn't come. Instead, a voice cuts through the sterile air, cold, authoritative, unforgiving. It speaks in commands, not in kindness. You don't know its name, yet its tone coils around your spine like a leash. Your body responds before your mind does. Feet snap together, hands at your sides, chin high. You did not choose to obey, you simply obeyed. That's when you realize, choice may not exist for you at all. That's why it sucked to be a clone. You march. The boots of 100 brothers strike the ground at once, echoing like a war drum. You hear the sound in your bones. It is not the rhythm of freedom. It is the rhythm of destiny written by someone else. Each step forward feels both natural and foreign, as though you have always done this but never wanted to. You don't even know what wanting feels like. The helmet never comes off, not here, not in front of them. It is your face, your voice, your cage. You breathe behind it, Live behind it. Think behind it. The visor separates you from the galaxy, and maybe from yourself. Every sight you witness is tinted through its glow, every sound dulled through its walls. You wonder if the air outside tastes sweeter, if the stars beyond look brighter, but you will never know, not unless someone allows you to. As you march, fragments of thought intrude. Were you born in that helmet? Were you forged for it? Or were you once free, and now shackled in ways you cannot remember? Your brothers don't ask these questions. Their heads remain forward, their bodies rigid. Perhaps they don't think at all. Perhaps they are more machine than man. But you, something in you, resists. Something in you aches. You feel the weight of individuality clawing at the edges of uniformity. The helmet hides your face but not your doubts. And in those doubts, a dangerous thought grows. What if you are more than the armor? What if behind the helmet there is still someone waiting to breathe their first real breath? But for now, you are swept forward. The march never stops. The voice never ceases. Commands drill into you like nails, and obedience flows like blood through your veins. You do not know the meaning of the words stop or refuse. You only know, yes sir. That's why it sucked to be a clone. The world outside the barracks remains a mystery. You've heard whispers of war, of stars filled with fire, of Jedi who move like gods among men. You do not know if they are saviors or masters. You do not know if you fight for them or because of them. You only know that the galaxy has already written your story, and you are a character inside it who doesn't get to read ahead. And yet, inside, beneath the weight of plastoid and steel, beneath the mechanical breath and the hum of recycled air, something stirs. A longing you cannot name, a memory you cannot trace, the faintest flicker of identity, fragile and rebellious, whispering to you that perhaps you are not just CTXXXX, perhaps you are not just another helmet in the line, perhaps you are more. But the thought dies as quickly as it rises, drowned beneath the echo of boots and the bark of orders. You breathe again, shallow and controlled, the helmet clinging tighter as if it heard you question it. You close your eyes, though sight never leaves. The visor refuses to let darkness in, and you realize with dread that your helmet is not just a tool, it is a prison guard. It watches you, binds you, and ensures you never stray too far. And so you march on. Each step takes you closer to a future you never asked for, yet one you cannot escape. Each breath behind the helmet is a reminder. This is not freedom. This is not life. This is survival under chains. That's why it sucked to be a clone. You feel the line halt. Silence falls, heavy and suffocating. The voice speaks again, sharper now, filled with promise and threat in equal measure. You are soldiers. You were bred for war, and tomorrow, you will taste it. Your heart lurches. War. The word echoes inside the helmet, rattling like a loose bolt. You don't know what it looks like, but you feel it already. Fire in the sky, blood on the soil, screams swallowed by the void. You wonder if your brothers feel the same fear, if they even feel at all. Their silence is terrifying. Their unity is unbreakable. You feel alone, even among thousands who share your face. The helmet is warm now, clinging with sweat. Your breath fogs the visor briefly before the filters clear it away. You wish you could wipe it clean with your hand, but the armor allows no such tenderness. You wish you could lift it off entirely just once, to feel the air of the galaxy, to see your reflection in water, to know your face, but you don't. You can't. You breathe in the recycled air again, and it tastes like resignation. You close your eyes to the glow of the visor, and you hear the echo of that word once more, war. And you know, deep down, that your first breath behind the helmet will not be your last. But you wonder, will you ever take a breath without it? And that question lingers in your chest like a loaded blaster, as the voice orders you to prepare, as the boots begin to march once more, as the walls close in tighter than ever before. Because tomorrow, the galaxy will meet you, and you will meet yourself. The fire is the first thing you feel, not the warmth of it, but the sting. Sparks fly like embers of memory, drifting too close, burning too quick. You smell the heat before you see it. Smoke thick with iron and oil, the heavy tang of molten metal hanging in the air. You do not know how you arrived here, but you know this place was always waiting for you. A forge, a womb of steel, the birthplace of something more enduring than flesh. Your vision narrows through the visor, green glow against the shadows, and there before you stands the furnace. Flames roar and twist as if alive, their voices a chorus of whispers that sound almost like your own thoughts. The anvil waits nearby, scarred from years of blows, pitted with the memories of battles long forgotten. Tools hang from the walls, their edges gleaming with firelight, their shapes menacing and familiar at once. And above all of it, the air pulses with rhythm, the steady clash of hammer against Beskar, ringing out like a heartbeat too loud to ignore. You watch the armorer work. She is faceless behind her helmet, yet every movement speaks of certainty, tradition, and law older than the stars themselves. Her hammer falls again, sparks exploding in showers that paint her silhouette in orange fire. Each strike is not just shaping metal, it is shaping destiny, and when her head tilts toward you, you feel as though the hammer is falling upon you as well. She says nothing, yet you hear everything. You hear the voice of your people, 1,000 generations etched into every clang. You hear duty and weight, sacrifice and silence. You hear the creed. This is the way. The words ring inside your skull like shackles and like salvation, and you cannot tell which one is truer. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The Forge is not just a place of creation, it is a place of rebirth. You remember flashes now, memories surfacing like body, ice breaking through dark water, a child's scream swallowed by fire, the thunder of blaster bolts raining down from above, the smell of ash, the sound of running feet, the sudden silence that follows annihilation. You remember being pulled from that silence by hands you did not know, by warriors clad in iron, their helmets gleaming as they carried you into shadows. That was the night you lost one life and inherited another. That was the night Beskar claimed you. The armorer lifts a piece from the furnace glowing white-hot. The sight sears into your visor, bright enough to blind, yet you cannot look away. The hammer falls again, each strike a question you do not know how to answer. Who are you? Why do you stand here? Are you the child who ran, or the warrior who remained? Each ring of metal forces you to breathe harder, the sound of your filtered breaths louder in your own ears, reminding you that the helmet is still there, still between you and the truth. The others stand around you, silent, armored figures whose faces you will never see. They watch you as though waiting for something, waiting for you to break, waiting for you to rise. Their presence is suffocating, and yet comforting. You do not know them as men or women. You know them only as Mandalorians. That is enough. Or at least, that is what you tell yourself. You glance down at your hands, scarred knuckles hidden beneath gloves, faint tremors betraying your thoughts. You wonder if the Beskar remembers too, remembers the blood it has absorbed, the lives it has ended. Does armor carry memory like a vessel, or is it only flesh that bears scars? The hammer falls again, sparks leap like fireflies desperate for freedom, but none of them escape. They all die in the air, vanishing as quickly as they appear. And you realize, this is what you are, a spark in the forge, a flash of light bound to fade, unless you are reforged into something that endures, something eternal, something Beskar. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The armorer sets the glowing plate into water, and the hiss of steam rises like a scream cut short. You flinch. You tell yourself it is the sound of metal cooling, nothing more. But in your heart, you know it is the sound of your past burning away. You hear it and think of the people you left behind. Did they burn as well? Were they reforged into silence? Or were they lost forever, nameless among the ashes? The armorer turns back to you. She raises the finished piece of Beskar, holding it up for all to see. In the light of the forge, it gleams with promise and threat alike. This will become part of your armor. This will become part of you. She approaches, and your heart pounds against your ribs like fists against durasteel. She attaches the plate to your shoulder, sealing it in place, binding flesh and metal as one. And when the weight settles, you understand what it means. Beskar is not simply protection. It is prison. It holds you together, yes, but it also holds you down. It tells you where you belong and where you do not. It whispers of duty, louder than any heartbeat. It chains you to a creed you did not choose. And yet, without it, you would be nothing. You raise your head, the new plate heavy on your body, and for a moment you feel strong. For a moment, you feel untouchable. But deep inside, where the fire cannot reach, You wonder if the strength is truly yours, or if it belongs only to the armor. The hammer falls again and again as more plates are forged, each one added to you until your body is no longer flesh at all, but iron and myth. You stand taller now, not because you wish to, but because the armor demands it. The others nod in silent approval. You are one of them now. You are bound. But as the forge quiets, as the armorer steps back into the shadows, a thought lingers in your mind like smoke that refuses to leave the lungs. If Beskar is eternal, if the creed is unbreakable, then where does that leave you? Are you eternal as well? Or just another soul hidden behind iron, forgotten once the helmet rusts away? You do not know. You may never know. But as you breathe in the metallic air of the forge, you cannot escape the truth. The armor is not just forged in fire, it is forged in you. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The forge fades, the heat cools, the glow dims. You stand in silence, bound by plates that feel heavier than any chain. Around you, your brothers and sisters turn and leave, their footsteps fading into the tunnels. You remain still, the echo of the hammer ringing in your ears long after the sound has gone. And then, from somewhere beyond the forge, you hear it, a distant rumble, not of fire, not of metal, but of engines, ships in the sky, cutting through the silence like blades. You tilt your head, and your visor catches a glimpse of light seeping through cracks in the ceiling. Not orange firelight, but white starlight. The galaxy is calling, and tomorrow you will answer. The words come before the meaning, low, steady, ancient, spoken in a tongue that feels older than stars, yet somehow they nest inside you like a memory you never chose. You hear them first as whispers in the forge, carried by the hiss of cooling metal, by the rhythm of the hammer that still rings faintly in your ears. Then they grow louder, until they are not just words, but a command etched into marrow itself. This is the way. You hear it, and you know it is not a choice. It is not a phrase you repeat. It is a truth that repeats you. The syllables settle into your chest like stones, heavy and unyielding. You breathe, but the helmet filters even this sound into something hollow, something stripped of its humanity. You wonder if the creed is in your voice at all, or if it is simply the forge echoing through you. The cavern smells of smoke and iron. You taste the bitterness on your tongue, metallic, as though the forge itself is bleeding into you. The walls are damp with condensation, the drip of water from unseen cracks punctuating the silence like a clock counting down. You stand among them, your brothers and sisters, every one of them faceless, voiceless, identical in their stillness. You glance from helm to helm, visor to visor, but you find no soul there, only reflections of your own emptiness. They all speak together, the phrase, the creed, the vow. Their voices are not their own, but one, resonating through the cavern, like the voice of a single, endless being. And as the words wash over you, you feel something stir inside your ribs. Fear, maybe, or defiance, but it dies quickly, buried beneath the weight of belonging. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You try to remember a time before the creed, but your mind betrays you. It gives you flashes, shadows of laughter, perhaps a woman's hand brushing dust from your cheek, the faint smell of soil after rain. Then, blaster fire drowns it out, screams, the crack of durasteel splitting under bombardment, fire swallowing a sky you can no longer recall. And then, silence, always silence after the storm. That is where the Mandalorians found you. That is where the creed took root. You never asked for it. You never agreed to it. And yet, here you are, speaking words you don't remember learning, living by laws you never wrote. It is not on your skin. It is beneath it, deeper than flesh, deeper than blood, in the bones. And bones, after all, cannot be broken without killing the body. The armorer steps into the circle. The glow of the forge halos her frame, painting her in firelight that turns her helm into the face of a god you cannot see. She does not need to raise her voice. She doesn't need to command. Her silence carries the weight of galaxies. When she lifts her hand, every Mandalorian bows their head slightly, the gesture of soldiers who do not need orders to obey. You bow too. You don't even think about it. The motion comes from muscle, not mind. And in that moment you realize, obedience is no longer something you perform. It is something you are. This is the way, she says again. Not to you, not even to them, but to the air itself, to the fire, to the bones of the galaxy. The words are eternal, like stone pillars that do not bend, no matter how many storms crash against them. You feel yourself shrinking beneath their weight, smaller, weaker, bound. You ask yourself, what if you said nothing? What if you stood silent, defiant, while the rest echoed their creed? The thought tempts you, dangerous and sharp, like running a finger along the edge of a blade. But then the doubt seeps in. If you did, would they notice? Would they cast you out? Would they kill you? Or worse, would they simply ignore you, as though you had never been Mandalorian at all? The thought terrifies you more than death itself. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The ceremony ends and the cavern empties slowly. Boots clatter against stone, echoes trailing off into tunnels that stretch forever. You remain for a moment, the forge's heat fading on your skin, though the helmet keeps you from feeling it fully. You breathe in again, tasting smoke and iron, and you wonder if you are breathing your own life, or the life of all who came before. When you finally step outside, the world greets you with cold air. The cavern mouth opens to a valley beneath a bruised sky, stars piercing through like blades of white against purple dusk. The air tastes different here, sharper, freer, as though the galaxy itself has not yet been filtered through creed and creed again. For a moment, you want to rip the helmet off. You want to feel the wind on your face, raw and unfiltered, to let it sting your skin and remind you that you are still flesh, still human. But the thought is treason. The thought is death. You do not remove it. You never will. Instead, you walk. The ground crunches beneath your boots, loose stone giving way with each step. You hear others ahead of you, moving as one. They do not speak. They do not laugh. They do not question. They are Mandalorians. They do not need to. You join them, though every part of you feels the distance. Not the distance of steps, but the distance of thought. You walk with them, but not within them. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Night deepens. Fires are lit in iron braziers, their smoke rising into the star-choked dark. You sit among them, armor clinking softly as you lower yourself to the ground. The heat of the flames licks at your body, but again, the armor dulls it. Always dulled, always filtered. You listen to the crackle, and it reminds you of the forge. Everything reminds you of the forge. One of your brothers sits beside you. You cannot see his face. You never will. He doesn't look at you, but his presence presses against you, heavy as Beskar. He speaks, not of himself, not of you, not of life or death. He speaks the creed, simple words, repeated like a prayer, like a chain rattled to remind you it is still locked tight, and without thinking, you repeat it back. This is the way. The words scrape your throat as they leave, but the moment they are spoken, something strange happens. For a fleeting heartbeat, you feel less alone. The creed is not just binding, it is unifying. It is the bridge between isolation and belonging. And though you hate it, though it digs like splinters under your skin, you cling to it all the same. Because without it, what are you? Just a child left in fire, just ashes carried by the wind. The fire dies lower, shadows crawling higher across the valley floor. You tilt your head to the stars, countless points of light burning in silence. Somewhere up there, the war rages. Somewhere up there, Jedi walk like gods, clones march like machines, and empires rise and fall with every breath. But down here, none of that matters. Down here, all that matters is the creed in your bones. And yet, as you watch the sky, a thought worms its way in. What if the creed is wrong? What if there is another way? The thought feels dangerous, blasphemous, but it is there, smoldering like a coal in your chest. You wonder if any of your brothers or sisters have ever thought the same. You wonder if the armorer herself ever questions the fire she tends. Or are you the only one cursed with doubt? You don't know, and maybe you never will. But as the flames fade to embers and as sleep pulls at your eyes, one truth remains. The creed is not just in your words. It is in your marrow, in your bones, in every step you take and every breath you steal from the helmet. You cannot escape it. You cannot deny it. It is you. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You close your eyes, but the stars remain burned into your vision. The creed whispers in your dreams, soft and relentless. And when morning comes, when the sun spills gold across the valley floor, you know the words will be waiting. You know they will shape you again, whether you like it or not. But tomorrow, something will happen that even the creed cannot prepare you for. something that will make you question if the way truly is the only way. The stars feel different out here, not brighter, not darker, just distant, as though they are watching you from the edge of the galaxy, whispering secrets they never intend to share. The hum of your ship's engines fills the silence, low and steady, like the breath of some sleeping beast. It rattles through the floor plates beneath your boots, vibrating in your bones, reminding you with every pulse that you are far from the core. Far from safety, far from everything but the edge of truth, the outer rim. The words taste strange in your mouth, harsh, bitter, like sand caught in your teeth. You've heard stories whispered in the forges, traded in quiet voices between brothers at the fire. The rim is lawless, they said. It is where empires go to die, and where secrets go to be buried. It is where whispers travel faster than ships, faster than credits, faster than life itself. And now, you are here. You stare through the visor at the void outside the viewport. Planets hang like broken pearls against the velvet dark, their surfaces scarred with deserts, jungles, oceans that churn like storms waiting to devour. Smugglers call these places home. Pirates carve empires from their shadows. Jedi tread carefully when they dare to tread at all. And Mandalorians? Mandalorians are both feared and forgotten here. Hunters, mercenaries, ghosts. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your hand brushes against your armor, and the Beskar feels heavier out here, as though the silence of the rim presses down on it harder than gravity itself. You wonder if it is because the creed feels weaker here, or stronger. You are bound to it, yes, but in this place, the galaxy doesn't care about your vows. Out here, survival is its own creed, and you ask yourself, whose law matters more, the way or the whispers? The ship dips lower, cutting through clouds stained red by a dying sun. The air tastes of dust and ozone, sharp against your tongue even through the filters of your helmet. You smell burning oil, scorched metal from the city below. Settlements sprawl across the surface like wounds, patched together with greed and desperation. Streets twist like veins, lit by neon that flickers, as if even the light here is too tired to shine. You land hard, the ramp clanging open to release the stench of the outer rim, sweat, smoke, food gone rancid, and something else you cannot name but instantly distrust. The air is thicker here, heavier, as though every breath you take adds weight to your lungs. You step forward, boots sinking into grit, and you hear voices rise around you. Not words, not yet, just murmurs, whispers. They are not afraid of you, not yet. They watch you, faceless eyes glinting in the dark corners of cantinas, from windows half-shuttered, from shadows that move when no one is near. Their stares are hungry, curious, dangerous. You feel them crawling across your armor like insects, probing for cracks, for weakness, for an opening. And though your visor hides your face, you wonder if they can see the flicker of doubt in your eyes. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You move deeper into the streets, sounds echo around you. Laughter too sharp, deals struck in hurried tones, the bark of blasters fired into the night for no reason but power. Droids shuffle past, their joints squealing with rust, carrying goods whose worth you cannot guess. A child darts by, bare feet slapping the ground, eyes wide as they trail across your armor. For a moment, you see yourself in that gaze, a child looking up at faceless iron, unaware that behind it beats a heart no freer than their own. You push the thought away. You cannot afford it, not here. The whispers grow clearer as you move closer to the cantina. Bits of conversation catch on the edges of your hearing, carried by the wind like smoke. Jedi, clones, bounty, war. Words that mean everything and nothing. Words that travel faster than ships, like fire licking dry grass. You step into the cantina, and the noise swells. A tide of voices, music grinding from broken instruments. The clatter of glasses filled with drinks too sour to name. The air is thick with spice smoke, burning the back of your throat. Eyes turn, always the eyes, always the whispers. You take a seat in the shadows, but the shadows are never enough. They know you're here. They know what you are. Mandalorian, a word that carries weight in the rim, weight heavier than credits, heavier than blood. They whisper it now, over drinks, behind hands, through teeth yellowed with time. Mandalorian. Some with awe, some with hate, most with hunger. A figure approaches. Tall, cloaked in rags that smell of damp wool and spice, voice roughened by years of smoke. "I heard a story," they rasp, eyes glittering in the dim light. "Heard of a ship that vanished near Hoth. Said the Empire doesn't want anyone to know. Said Jedi were involved." The figure leans closer, and the stench of rot fills your senses. "You want to know the truth? Out here everyone does. And out here truth will kill you faster than lies." You don't answer. You can't, because deep inside, the fire flickers again, the one that doubts, the one that questions. You shouldn't care. The way should be enough, but you care. You always care. And that is the weakness the Outer Rim feeds on. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The night bleeds on. Whispers grow thicker, weaving around you like vines. Stories of battles lost, planets erased from maps, Jedi hunted, Mandalorians betrayed. You hear them all, each one louder than the last, until they are no longer rumors but truths carved into your bones. The creed holds you steady, yes, but each whisper chips at it like a blade striking stone, and you wonder how many strikes it can endure before it cracks. You leave the cantina, the stench clinging to your armor like smoke. The streets are quieter now, but the whispers never die. They follow you into the dark, into the alleys where shadows move too quickly, where footsteps echo behind you though no one is there. You grip your blaster, fingers tight against the trigger. You tell yourself it's nothing, just the rim, just the way it breathes. But deep down, you know better. Because whispers are not harmless. Whispers are the first signs of storms. You turn a corner and freeze. There, waiting in the shadows, is a figure cloaked in black. They say nothing, but the air shifts around them, heavy, suffocating. You cannot see their face, but you feel their gaze pierce through the visor as if it isn't there at all. For the first time tonight, the whispers fall silent. For the first time you hear only your own breath, and in that silence you realize something terrifying. The Outer Rim is not just filled with whispers, it is listening back. It starts with the silence, not the silence of peace or of rest, but the silence that waits in ambush, the kind that lingers just before a blade strikes, just before a blaster is drawn. You feel it pressing against the edges of your visor, crawling down into your bones. The Outer Rim has always been loud with whispers, with rumors and half-truths traded like credits. But now, the whispers fall still, and you know what comes after stillness: the hunt. The air tastes sharp in your helmet, metallic, as if every breath has been scraped over steel. The engines of your ship idle low behind you, rumbling like a beast chained too tightly. Beyond the landing bay, the settlement sprawls in crooked lines of stone and neon, shadows crouching in the corners of every alley. You step forward, boots crunching grit beneath you, and feel the weight of eyes you cannot see. They watch, they wait. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never unseen. You are always hunted, even when you are the one who hunts. The quarry's name has already been spoken to you in whispers, passed through spice smoke and trembling lips. A traitor, they said. A thief. Someone who stole more than credits. Someone who stole knowledge. Secrets that were not meant to escape the Empire's grasp. Secrets about clones. Secrets about Jedi. Secrets about war. You don't know if the whispers tell truth or lies, but the Rim doesn't care about the difference. Truth is just a word. Survival is the only language that matters. The bounty puck flickers in your gauntlet, painting the grime-smeared wall with a holographic shimmer. The face stares back at you, half-lit, eyes wide and haunted. The details blur with static, as if even the image itself wants to vanish. You watch it longer than you should. The longer you look, the more the features seem familiar. Not because you know this person, but because every fugitive's eyes carry the same weight: fear, desperation, the knowledge that they are prey in a galaxy that does not forgive, and you are the predator sent to collect. The cantina stench still clings to your armor: spice smoke, unwashed bodies, the sour tang of drink spilled into dirt. As you move deeper into the alleys, the air shifts. You smell burning oil, ozone from blaster discharges fired not long ago, and the faintest trace of blood hidden beneath it all. The Rim does not bother to wash itself clean. It wears its violence openly, like scars that have never been allowed to heal. Your visor catches movement, a shadow flitting across the rooftops. Too quick for a civilian, too sharp for someone who isn't watching you back. You tilt your head, listening. The streets are empty, but the silence presses tighter now, squeezing your chest like a fist. Even your own breathing feels too loud. The hunt has already begun. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You stalk through the alleys, every sense sharpened by the helmet's glow. The HUD flickers with readouts, heat signatures, faint traces of movement, but none of them give you what you need. None of them show you the truth. The outer rim is good at hiding truth. That is why whispers thrive here. You crouch near a wall, fingertips brushing rough stone, warm, recently disturbed, a scuff mark where a boot slipped. The trail is fresh. You follow it, step by step, each motion heavy with the weight of the creed that chains you to this path. You are not free to walk away. You are not free to ignore the bounty. You are Mandalorian. This is the way. And yet, beneath that creed, the thought gnaws at you like a rat in the dark. What if the whispers were true? What if this quarry carries secrets worth more than credits? Secrets that could unravel empires, expose lies, burn away the shadows that choke the galaxy. If that is true, then why hunt them? Why silence them? The question coils tighter, but you push it down. Questions do not feed you. Questions do not buy fuel. The creed feeds you. The bounty buys fuel. That is enough, or at least, that's what you try to believe. You spot movement again, this time closer, darting through a narrow corridor where neon sputters against the dark. You move faster, the sound of your boots echoing in perfect rhythm with your breath. The figure glances back once, eyes flashing in the dim, and for a heartbeat, the world slows. Fear in their face, purpose in yours, predator and prey locked in orbit, bound to collide. The chase spills into the open market. Stalls crash as the quarry barrels through them, scattering dried meats and rusted droid parts into the dirt. Vendors shout in anger but step aside quickly when they see you in pursuit. The word spreads fast. Mandalorian. It drips from tongues like both curse and prayer. Some whisper it with fear, others with awe. But all of them watch as you hunt, and none dare to interfere. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are spectacle as much as soldier. A story moving through streets that never forget. The quarry darts left, vanishing into smoke pouring from a burning generator. The acrid taste stings your throat even through the filters. You push through, visor adjusting, and find yourself in a courtyard littered with scrap and shadows. The figure stands at the far end, chest heaving, eyes wide. For a moment, neither of you moves. The silence returns, heavier than before. The whispers are gone. All that remains is the sound of your bray. The weight of the creed in your chest, and the pounding of your heart that you wish the helmet would not amplify. They speak. Their voice cracks, but it carries. You don't understand. If you take me back, you're delivering more than a bounty. You're delivering the galaxy back into chains. You freeze. The words cut sharper than any blade. Chains. You know their weight. You feel them every time the creed binds your choices. Every time the helmet seals your face away from the galaxy. And in their voice, you hear something familiar, something you once buried deep, a plea, a hunger for freedom. But you are Mandalorian. This is the way. You hear yourself say it before you realize you've spoken. The words echo too loud in the courtyard, bouncing back at you like accusations. Your hand tightens on your blaster. The quarry's eyes narrow, shimmering with something between rage and despair. They draw first. The blaster's flash sears through the night, cutting past your helmet with blinding light. You roll, the shot ricocheting off stone. Your own weapon fires back, bolts shattering scrap, sparks flying into the air like dying stars. The hunt is no longer whispers. It is war. You move closer, shots ringing in rhythm, each one louder than your thoughts. The quarry dives for cover, firing wild, desperate. You advance steadily, armor shrugging off glancing blows, the weight of Beskar both blessing and curse. It shields you, yes, but it also reminds you, every step, every breath, you are trapped in iron. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The fight drags longer than it should. They are skilled, desperate, fueled by survival. But desperation cannot outlast Beskar. A bolt catches their side and they stumble, gasping. You close the distance, gauntlet rising, ready to finish it. Your hand trembles, not from weakness, from doubt. Their voice breaks through the smoke. They'll use me to erase the truth. The clones, The Jedi, the wars you fought for nothing, if you bring me in, you help them bury it forever. The words strike harder than the blaster fire. The clones, the Jedi, the wars, all things you've heard only in fragments, in whispers that cling to the outer rim like ghosts. You feel the creed pulsing in your bones, urging you to finish it, to take the bounty, to follow the way. But beneath it, deeper still, the ember of rebellion glows. The ember that whispers, what if they're right? You stand there, gauntlet aimed, visor locked on their eyes. The silence stretches, unbearable. The whispers return, faint, curling around you like smoke. Mandalorian, predator, hunter, prisoner. And then, behind you, the sound of engines. Not your ship, bigger, louder, a roar that shakes the stones beneath your boots. You turn your head, visor catching the glow of thrusters descending. A gunship, no markings, no mercy. The Empire has arrived. The hunt is no longer yours alone. The hunt has only just begun. The first shot splits the night like lightning. It sears across the courtyard in a violent streak of red, painting shadows on stone walls, shattering the silence into shards that pierce your ears even through the helmet. The air fills with the acrid stench of ozone, sharp and bitter, burning the back of your throat. You drop low as sparks scatter, the heat licking against your beskar like the breath of a furnace. The gunship roars above, its engines thrumming like the heart of a beast circling its prey. Searchlights cut through the smoke, blinding white beams that slash across the rooftops, dragging the darkness with them. You taste dust on your tongue, grit grinding against your teeth as the blast wave rattles the ground beneath your boots. Every instinct in you screams the truth. You are no longer the hunter. You are being hunted. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The quarry stumbles beside you, clutching their wound, eyes wide with a terror that reflects your own unspoken doubts. Their breath comes ragged, shallow, every inhale a desperate plea for survival. You want to ignore them. You want to remind yourself this is just another bounty, another job, another face you'll forget once credits are in your hands. But their words echo too loud in your skull. Jedi, clones, wars buried beneath lies, chains heavier than armor, secrets worth killing for. The blaster fire rains down again, the sound deafening, ricochets screaming as bolts slam into walls, tearing stone apart like paper. You press yourself against cover, gauntlet burning where it scrapes the wall. The quarry huddles close, trembling, and for the first time you realize they are not shaking from fear alone. They are shaking because they know something you don't. The Empire doesn't hunt without reason. You lean out, visor catching the glow of soldiers rappelling from the gunship. Stormtroopers, their armor, gleams under the searchlights, faceless and cold, the same as you, yet not the same. Their helmets may hide them, but their voices shout in unison, commands barked with mechanical precision. You hear it and wonder if they feel what you feel, or if obedience has burned every question from their bones. That's why it sucked to be a stormtrooper. You fire back. The blaster's recoil vibrates through your arm, the red flash streaking across the night and dropping one trooper in a spray of sparks. The others scatter, white armor glowing like ghosts against the dark. The air fills with smoke, each shot tearing holes into shadows, each impact sending shockwaves into the dirt beneath you. The courtyard becomes a graveyard of light and sound. The quarry tugs at your arm. We can't stay here. They'll bury us alive. Their voice is raw, desperate, but it carries truth. You glance at them, visor reflecting their fear, and you realize you're standing on the edge of choice. Creed says bring them in, survival says run, but doubt says listen. Another blast strikes the wall behind you, showering sparks that sear against your cape. You don't have time to think. You grab the quarry's arm and pull them into the alley, boots pounding against stone as blaster fire chases you like a storm at your back. The sound echoes, thunderous, every bolt a heartbeat too close. The air smells of burning oil and scorched metal, thick enough to choke. The city twists around you, alleys splitting like veins, shadows shifting too fast to trust. You feel the helmet's filters straining, the hiss of recycled air uneven as smoke clogs the world outside. The quarry stumbles, but you drag them forward, every step pounding with the weight of choices you don't want to make. Behind you, the stormtroopers' boots hammer in unison, a sound that claws into your spine. You duck into a side street, press against the wall, and wait. The night is heavy with smoke, lit only by the glow of neon signs flickering overhead. Their buzz fills your ears, sharp and unnatural, drowning the silence. The quarry's breathing is ragged, shallow. You wonder if they will collapse before the hunt ends. You wonder if you will. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The stormtroopers march past, their voices mechanical, their searchlights slicing through the smoke. You hold your breath, feel the recycled air claw at your throat, count the seconds as they stretch into eternity. The quarry's trembling slows, their eyes locked on yours. For the first time, you see not just fear, but trust, and it terrifies you. The troopers vanish down the street. You exhale slowly, visor fogging for a moment before the filters clear it. You glance at the quarry, their wound dark and wet beneath their hand, and you know what the creed demands. Leave them, take the bounty, return what was stolen, but the whispers in your head won't stop. Jedi, clones, wars erased, secrets worth dying for. You hear the sound again before you see it, the low thrum of another gunship approaching, engines beating like war drums. The rooftops vibrate with its weight, dust raining down on your helmet. You look up, and through the smoke you see it, the silhouette of a ship larger than before, cannons swiveling, hungry for blood. There is no more time. You grip the quarry's arm tighter and run. The city blurs past in streaks of neon and shadow, your boots striking rhythm against stone, every echo drowned by the roar of engines above. Blaster fire rains down again, bolts tearing the street apart, sparks spraying into the night. You dive into another alley just as the ground erupts where you stood seconds before. The heat sears your armor, the shockwave rattling through your bones. The quarry cries out. Their voice breaking, but you drag them forward. The helmet amplifies every sound, your own breathing ragged, the pounding of your heart, the hiss of smoke that stings your lungs. You push through it all. Because stopping means death, because hesitation means failure, because you are Mandalorian. And yet, beneath the creed, the ember still burns. The thought you cannot kill. What if they are right? You burst into an open plaza, the fountain long dry, its stone cracked and broken. The gunship looms above, cannons glowing as they charge. You raise your blaster, fire again and again, bolts streaking against durasteel hulls that don't even flinch. The ship answers with fire of its own, explosions tearing chunks of stone, shrapnel ringing against your armor like rain. The quarry collapses against the fountain, gasping, blood seeping between their fingers. You kneel beside them, visor catching their gaze. Their voice is barely a whisper now, but you hear it clearer than the storm above. If you don't listen, everything ends. The Jedi, the clones, the truth, they'll erase it all. You'll help them bury it. Your gauntlet trembles as you reach for them. The creed screams inside you. Deliver them, finish the job, take the bounty. But their words dig deeper, carving scars into your bones that no Beskar can shield. The gunship's cannons flare again, light swallowing the plaza in blinding white. You have seconds, maybe less. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You lift the quarry, their weight heavy, their blood staining your gloves. You stagger toward the alley, but the roar of the gunship follows. The ground splits under fire, debris crashing around you, smoke choking every breath. The plaza becomes chaos, light and shadow colliding, blaster fire tearing apart the night. You run anyway, because for the first time, you are no longer sure if you are running toward survival or toward the truth. And as you vanish into the dark, the whispers return, faint, endless, inescapable. The outer rim is watching, and the hunt has only just begun. The darkness is not empty. You tell yourself it is. Every time you step into an alley, every time you vanish into a tunnel, every time you close your eyes behind the visor and hope for silence. But the darkness is never empty. It breathes, it shifts, it whispers. And in the outer rim, it watches, always watching. Your boots crunch against gravel as you move through the ruins of the plaza, the quarry's weight slung over your shoulder. Their blood seeps through your gloves, warm and sticky, clinging to you as though even it refuses to let go. The air stinks of ozone and char, blaster fire still hanging in the smoke that curls like claws through the streets. Every breath burns in your lungs, the filters whine, the helmet hums, and beneath it all, your heart beats too loud. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never alone, not even in shadows. The quarry groans, their voice thin and broken, but their words stab sharper than blades. They won't stop. Not until I'm gone. Not until the truth is buried. Their head lolls against your shoulder, their breath damp against your armor. You want to silence them, tell them you don't care, that the creed demands obedience and nothing more. But the truth is, you do care. You care too much. And that's the wound the galaxy always knows how to exploit. The stormtroopers are still behind you. You hear them, boots hammering stone, comms crackling with static commands, blaster bolts carving through the dark. The sound of empire, the sound of inevitability. They are not hunters tonight. They are shadows, multiplying with every street you cross, every turn you take. You move faster, armor heavy, quarry heavier, every step carrying the weight of choices you never wanted to make. A corner, a dead end. Stone walls rise high, jagged with cracks, unreachable without free hands. You press your back to it, the quarry slipping from your shoulder, groaning as they collapse beside you. The shadows close in, white armor gleaming, blasters raised, searchlights cutting through the dark. You raise your weapon. The world slows. Blaster fire explodes, red streaks searing the air, sparks screaming as they ricochet. You fire back, bolts tearing into white plates, troopers falling, smoke filling the street like a curtain. The quarry drags themselves closer, clutching their wound, their eyes wide as though watching both the battle and something far worse. You fight until your gauntlets burn, until the rifle hums with heat, until your own breath feels like fire. But still they come. Still the shadows multiply. You hear the clatter of reinforcements, the rumble of engines above, and you realize the Empire does not simply want the quarry dead, it wants them erased. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are always the weapon in someone else's war. The quarry grabs your wrist suddenly, their grip weak but unrelenting. Their voice trembles, but the words carve through the noise. If you leave me, you'll never know. You'll never understand why the Jedi fell, why the clones obeyed, why the galaxy drowns in silence. The visor reflects their face, bloodied, desperate, filled with a fire you recognize. The same fire that once burned in you before the creed smothered it. You hesitate, blaster trembling, doubt clawing harder than any stormtrooper's grip. Another shot slams into the wall beside you, showering sparks across your cape. You move without thinking, gauntlet to the ground, switch engaged. A flash charge rolls out, blinding white light splitting the alley. The troopers cry out, helmets flashing static, and you grab the quarry, dragging them through smoke. The street twists ahead, every turn darker than the last. The shadows follow. They always follow. You slip into a service tunnel, the stench of oil and damp metal choking you instantly. Water drips from pipes overhead, each drop echoing like a countdown. The quarry stumbles beside you, their steps uneven, blood smearing the floor. Your visor flickers in the dark, HUD straining to cut through the gloom, and you realize the worst truth of all. This tunnel is not empty either. You hear them before you see them. Not stormtroopers. Different voices, low, grating, hungry. Shapes move in the dark, slender, jagged, dripping with the stench of rot. Pirates, scavengers, hyenas drawn to the sound of battle. Blasters glint in their hands, blades catch the weak light. Their eyes glow faint in the dark. They do not wear white armor, but they are no less dangerous. That's why it sucked to be in the outer rim. Even shadows have shadows. They surround you quickly, half-circle tightening, weapons raised. You stand taller, rifle shifting, quarry slumping against your shoulder. You smell their breath before they speak, sour, thick with spice, the reek of those who kill to live another day. One steps forward, teeth yellow, eyes shining with cruel amusement. Mandalorian, he spits, voice echoing in the tunnel. You bleed credits. Leave the body, leave the armor, walk away alive. The quarry coughs weakly, their voice barely audible. They're worse than the Empire. They'll sell me. They'll sell everything. You grip your weapon tighter, The pirates grin wider, laughter bouncing against the metal walls, laughter that sounds too much like the galaxy itself mocking you. You've been cornered before, you've fought before, but never with this weight on your shoulder. This quarry whose words gnaw at your bones, whose secrets could shatter empires. You know what the creed demands, but the creed never told you what to do when enemies hide in every shadow. The first pirate lunges, you fire, bolt T, ring through his chest, sparks painting the walls red. The tunnel erupts in chaos. Blaster fire screams, blades flash, smoke thickens until you can't see more than a meter ahead. You fight on instinct, gauntlets striking, rifle blazing, armor ringing with each impact. The quarry collapses to the ground, clutching their wound, shouting something you cannot hear over the roar. You drop another pirate, then another, their screams swallowed by the dark. But more pour in, shadows birthing shadows, teeth bared and hungry. You feel a blade scrape against your armor, sparks blinding you, the heat searing your side. You slam the attacker back, gauntlets sparking as you fire a wrist rocket point blank. The explosion rocks the tunnel, deafening, smoke choking every breath. You stagger, quarry pulling at your arm, their eyes meet yours, wild, desperate. You see, they all want me dead. Because I know, because I carry the truth. You don't answer. You can't. Not as long as the tunnel is filled with shadows, not as long as every breath is fire, not as long as every choice is a chain around your throat. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never free to choose. The pirates retreat finally, smoke clearing to reveal twisted bodies littering the floor. The air reeks of blood and burnt metal, bitter on your tongue. You kneel beside the quarry, gauntlets trembling as you lift them again. Their blood stains your armor deeper, hot and unyielding, and for the first time you feel the weight not of Beskar, but of their life in your hands. You push deeper into the tunnels, every step echoing, every drip of water like a warning. The shadows cling tighter here, wrapping around you like chains. You cannot tell if the voices you hear are real, stormtroopers hunting, pirates waiting, or simply whispers born from your own doubts. All you know is that enemies are everywhere. In every alley, in every tunnel, in every silence, and in every shadow. You climb a rusted ladder, boots scraping metal, quarry groaning against you. The hatch above creaks open, cold night air rushing in, sharp with the smell of smoke and fear. You emerge into another street, dimly lit by fires burning in the distance. The city is alive with chaos, stormtroopers clashing with pirates, blasters streaking across rooftops, civilians scattering like prey caught in crossfire. The outer rim is eating itself alive, and you are trapped in its throat. You drag the quarry into the ruins of a building, walls cracked and broken, roof half collapsed. You lower them to the ground, their face pale, eyes fever bright. They grip your hand suddenly, blood smearing across your gauntlet. You have to choose. The Empire, the pirates, the creed, or the truth. If you don't, there won't be a galaxy left to hunt in. Their words echo in the hollow space, louder than the blaster fire outside, louder than the roar of ships in the sky. You want to ignore them. You want to hide behind the creed, behind the helmet, behind the silence that has always shielded you. But you can't, not anymore, because they're right. And as their hand slips from yours, as their eyes flutter with exhaustion, you hear it. Footsteps crunching outside, heavy, precise. Stormtroopers. More shadows closing in. The quarry's voice is barely a whisper now, but it cuts sharper than any blade. Choose. Before the shadows, choose for you. You lift your blaster, visor fixed on the shattered doorway, where white armor glints in the firelight. Your breath rattles through the filters, loud, uneven, almost desperate. You know what comes next. Because enemies are everywhere, and the dark is never empty. Honor does not taste like glory. It tastes like ash, like iron blood drying against your tongue, like smoke curling from fires that never should have been lit. It clings to your armor, soaks into your bones, until you no longer know whether it is the thing that lifts you higher or the weight that drags you down into darkness. Tonight, you feel its weight more than ever. The stormtroopers close in, boots pounding against shattered stone, voices sharp and clipped through the crackle of comms. Their searchlights sweep across the ruins, slicing the dark into jagged pieces, blinding white beams that leave you exposed no matter how deep the shadows. You kneel beside the quarry, their face pale beneath flickering firelight, their breath shallow and uneven. They are dying, and you know the creed demands you carry them to their fate, bounty intact, but honor whispers something different. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never free to decide what honor means. You rise, blaster ready, visor fixed on the doorway. The first trooper bursts through, white armor glowing against the dark, rifle raised. You fire before thought can catch up, bolt tearing into his chest. He falls without a sound, the impact ringing louder than his voice ever could. More stormtroopers flood in behind him, their shots slicing the air, searing against walls, sparks raining across the rubble. You move with the rhythm you were forged in, shoulder roll, return fire, gauntlet raised in defense. Every motion rehearsed 1,000 times, every strike echoing the creed etched into your marrow. Beskar shrugs off glancing blows, the armor ringing like a bell, the weight both a blessing and a curse. The quarry drags themselves toward cover, eyes wide, breath ragged. You fight harder, not for the creed, but for that spark of defiance you see still burning in them. Blaster bolts flash red across your visor. The air tastes of scorched stone, hot enough to sting even through filters. The noise is deafening, each shot a thunderclap in the hollow ruin. You drop another trooper, then another, their bodies collapsing into the dust. But for every one that falls, 2 more rise from the smoke, faceless and relentless. And you wonder, what does honor demand? To obey the creed? To deliver the bounty? Or to fight against the tide that tells you obedience is the only path? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your life is measured in someone else's rules. The quarry cries out suddenly, their voice breaking through the storm. If you fight for them, you are no better than them. Honor isn't in the creed, it's in the choice. The words rip through you sharper than any blaster bolt. Choice. A word that feels almost alien in your mouth, almost dangerous. A word that burns hotter than the forge itself. You fight harder, but now every shot is heavier. Every bolt feels less like duty and more like desperation. You retreat into the stairwell of the ruin, hauling the quarry with you, stormtroopers firing from below. The air grows colder as you climb, the stench of smoke giving way to damp stone and mildew. Each step echoes, the sound of armor against metal louder than the storm outside. You reach the rooftop, breath ragged, visor reflecting the burning city sprawled below. Fires rage across the streets, smoke curling into the sky like black serpents. The outer rim devours itself, and you stand at its edge, quarry bleeding at your feet. The gunship circles above, engines howling, cannons glowing with power. Searchlights pin you against the rooftop, no shadows left to hide in. Stormtroopers swarm the building, their boots rattling the stone beneath you. Their voices rising in mechanical chorus. You know what comes next, capture or death. And still, the quarry's words linger. Honor is in two. He choice. You kneel, gauntlets trembling as you press a patch against their wound. Their eyes meet yours, fever bright, filled with something beyond fear. Something like hope. You don't have to follow their rules. You don't have to sell me to them. If you do, everything we've lost will stay buried. The Jedi, the clones, the truth. Is that honor to you? You freeze. The helmet hums. The visor reflects their broken face back at you. And in it, you see yourself. Once a child in fire. Once a soul saved not by creed, but by choice. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed never gave you choices. Only chains. The gunship banks lower, cannons locking on. The rooftop trembles with the weight of its engines. You rise slowly, blaster heavy in your hand, armor burning with the heat of your doubts. The stormtroopers flood onto the roof, rifles raised, voices shouting commands you refuse to hear. You stand in the center, between them and the quarry, between obedience and defiance, between creed and choice. The air tastes of ozone, the city roars beneath you. The stormtroopers take aim. The gunship's cannons flare with light brighter than the stars, and in that moment you realize what honor costs. It costs blood. It costs betrayal. It costs the very creed that raised you. Honor costs everything. The stormtroopers fire. You dive, pulling the quarry into your arms, bolts streaking across the rooftop. Sparks shower. Stone shatters. Your rifle answers, bolts punching through white plates. Troopers collapsing in flashes of red and smoke. The gunship fires. The rooftop erupting, debris raining into the streets below. You stagger, armor ringing with impact, visor flashing static as heat overloads your sensors. The quarry clings to you weakly, whispering words you can barely hear. Don't let them win. And you know, deep in your bones, that you can never hand them over. That the price if honor is not obedience, it is rebellion. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed doesn't protect you when you betray it. You grab the quarry, fire your jetpack, and launch into the night. The engines scream, wind tearing at your cape, smoke rushing past as the rooftop collapses behind you. Blaster fire follows, bolts slicing the air, but you weave between ruins, streaking low over the burning streets. The city shrinks beneath you, chaos swallowing itself, voices screaming in the dark. The quarry shudders against your chest, their blood staining deeper into your armor, hot and heavy. You know the Empire will not stop. You know the pirates will not stop. You know the creed will not forgive you. And you know you have just chosen the path that will cost you everything, the price of honor. You land hard in the wastelands beyond the city, dust exploding around your boots. The night here is silent, cold, the stars sharp against the void. You lower the quarry to the ground, their eyes fluttering open, their lips trembling with words you can't yet hear. You kneel beside them, visor reflecting their face, and you realize your honor has just bound you to something greater than the way. You've chosen rebellion, you've chosen truth, but the price is still to come. And as you hear the distant roar of engines approaching, gunships sweeping the desert, searchlights carving the dark, you understand that the galaxy will make you pay it in full, because honor is never free, and yours is about to cost you everything. The memory comes back to you in fire, not the kind that warms, not the kind that lights a hearth and brings comfort. No, this fire screams, it devours, it chews through wood and stone, spits ash into the sky, and leaves nothing behind but blackened bone. You don't remember choosing to recall it, but memory doesn't ask permission. It takes. And when it takes, you feel it in every nerve, every breath, every scar the armor can't hide. The sound comes first. The thundering shriek of engines overhead, the bone-deep rumble of bombardments raining down. You hear it again as though it is happening now, as though the night you live in has peeled open to reveal the night you tried to forget. The ground shakes beneath you, the air trembling, dust falling like rain. Then comes the light. A flash across the horizon, brighter than any sun, burning hot enough to turn day into something worse. You taste iron on your tongue. You smell burning flesh carried on the wind, and then you hear yourself, not as you are now, encased in Beskar, voice distorted by filters and steel. You hear yourself as a child, small, helpless, screaming. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were not born to the creed. You were taken by it. You see it again, the village, the stone walls cracking apart, roofs collapsing under fire, faces around you streaked with dirt and fear. Hands clutching yours, dragging you through smoke. You don't know if they belong to your mother, your father, a brother you never remembered having. You only know they were warm. You only know they were ripped away. The blasters came next, red streaks splitting the night, faceless soldiers pouring through the streets, armor white and cold, voices sharp with commands you couldn't understand. You tried to run, you tried to hide, but everywhere you turned, the fire was there first. You stumbled into alleys choked with smoke, your small, hands pressed against walls hot enough to blister, your chest burned with each breath, the air thick with ash, and above it all, the sky wept light. You fell. You remember that most of all. Stones cutting your palms, knees tearing open, blood mixing with soot. You curled in on yourself, waiting for the end, waiting for the faceless ones to find you. You were nothing but a child in the dirt, alone, powerless, forgotten. And then they came, shapes in the fire, helmets gleaming, armor dark as the void. They moved like shadows pulled from legend, like the storm itself had grown claws, Blasters roared, jetpacks screamed, and the white armored soldiers fell. You looked up through tears, eyes wide, and for the first time, you saw Beskar, not as prison, not as weight, but as salvation. That's why it sucked to be a child. Because you believed salvation meant freedom. They lifted you from the ground, their hands cold but strong. You clung to them, your small body shaking, face pressed against plates that smelled of smoke and oil. You didn't know who they were. You didn't care. They had saved you. And when they carried you from the fire, when they pulled you into the safety of the shadows, you believed they had carried you into a new life. But the truth was simpler. They had carried you into chains. The memory fades, but its echo lingers. The quarry lies weak against the sand beside you, their breath shallow, eyes fluttering. The night is cold, desert winds hissing against the rocks, carrying the faint tang of smoke from the burning city you left behind. The stars stretch endlessly above, sharp and indifferent, their silence cutting deeper than blasters ever could. You stare at the quarry, and you see not them, but yourself, the child that was you, lost, alone, pulled into someone else's war. You feel the weight of the helmet pressing tighter. You wonder what the child would say. If he could see you now, a warrior bound by creed, drowning in honor, lost in shadows. Would he see salvation or prison? Would he see freedom or chains? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were not born to the creed. You were taken by it. You see it again. The village. The stone walls cracking apart, roofs collapsing under fire, faces around you streaked with dirt and fear, hands clutching yours, dragging you through smoke. You don't know if they belong to your mother, your father, a brother you never remembered having. You only know they were warm. You only know they were ripped away. The blasters came next. Red streaks splitting the night, faceless soldiers pouring through the streets, armor white and cold, voices sharp with commands you couldn't understand. You tried to run, you tried to hide, but everywhere you turned, the fire was there first. You stumbled into alleys choked with smoke, your small hands pressed against walls hot enough to blister. Your chest burned with each breath, the air thick with ash, and above it all, the sky wept light. You fell. You remember that most of all. Stones cutting your palms, knees tearing open, blood mixing with soot. You curled in on yourself, waiting for the end, waiting for the faceless ones to find you. You were nothing but a child in the dirt, alone, powerless, forgotten. And then, they came. Shapes in the fire, helmets gleaming, armor dark as the void. They moved like shadows pulled from legend, like the storm itself had grown claws. Blasters roared, jetpacks screamed, and the white armored soldiers fell. You looked up through tears, eyes wide, and for the first time you saw Beskar, not as prison, not as weight, but as salvation. That's why it sucked to be a child, because you believed salvation meant freedom. They lifted you from the ground, their hands cold but strong. You clung to them, your small body shaking, face pressed against plates that smelled of smoke and oil. You didn't know who they were. You didn't care. They had saved you. And when they carried you from the fire, when they pulled you in, to the safety of the shadows, you believed they had carried you into a new life. But the truth was simpler. They had carried you into chains. The memory fades, but its echo lingers. The quarry lies weak against the sand beside you, their breath shallow, eyes fluttering. The night is cold, desert winds hissing against the rocks, carrying the faint tang of smoke from the burning city you left behind. The stars stretch endlessly above, sharp and indifferent, their silence cutting deeper than blasters ever could. You stare at the quarry, and you see not them, but yourself, the child that was you, lost, alone, pulled into someone else's war. You feel the weight of the helmet pressing tighter. You wonder what the child would say if he could see you now. A warrior bound by creed, drowning in honor, lost in shadows. Would he see salvation or prison? Would he see freedom or chains? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed doesn't save you. It consumes you. The quarry stirs, their voice rasping. You know what it feels like, don't you? To be taken, to have no choice but to wear the chains given to you. That's why you hesitate. That's why you haven't handed me over. You don't answer. Your gauntlets clench, leather creaking under the strain. The desert wind cuts through the silence, dry and sharp, filling your visor with a hiss like static. The quarry coughs, blood staining their lips, but their eyes burn with something fierce. You're still that child. You've just buried him under armor. The words pierce deeper than blaster fire. You look away, visor catching the glint of stars, and you remember again the scream of engines, the fire in the sky, the faceless hands pulling you into shadows. You never chose the creed. You were never asked. You were a child, too broken to resist, and maybe you still are. You shift, the Beskar plates scraping, the sound loud in the desert stillness. You want to tell yourself it isn't true, that you are Mandalorian because you chose the way, because honor binds you, because creed gives life meaning. But the child inside whispers the truth. You wear the armor not because you chose it, but because you never escaped it. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your life isn't yours. It never was. The quarry groans again, their voice weaker now, but the words still cut. If you deliver me, you deliver that child back into chains. The one you were, the one you still are. Silence stretches. The stars burn. The desert wind moans across the rocks, carrying whispers that sound almost like voices. You feel the weight of the choice pressing harder than Beskar ever could. The child that was you screams in memory, reaching through the flames, begging you not to let him die again. And yet, the creed whispers too. This is the way. It hums in your bones. It burns in your marrow. It drags you down. The creed doesn't care for children. It only cares for survival. You close your eyes. Behind the visor, darkness swallows the stars. The memory of fire flickers, brighter, closer, until you can't breathe without smelling smoke. You hear the child scream again, raw and endless. You open your eyes and realize it was not memory at all. It is here. The night sky glows red on the horizon. Engines roar, deep and thunderous, carried on the desert wind. The Empire has not stopped. The hunt has not ended. They are coming. You rise slowly, the quarry weak against your side, their blood still hot against your gloves. You stare into the dark horizon, where searchlights bloom like false stars. The child inside you trembles. The warrior outside you steels himself. Both are the same. Both are trapped. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. No matter how far you run, you can never outrun the fire that made you. The quarry clutches your arm, their voice breaking, urgent despite the weakness. If you want to save yourself, if you want to save that child, you'll have to fight them. Not for credits, not for creed, but for truth. You look down at them, visor reflecting their pale, bloodied face. And in that reflection, you see the child again, the one crying in fire, the one reaching for salvation, the one still waiting for freedom. Your jetpack hums, the engines trembling beneath your back. The stars blaze above, the horizon burns with false suns, and you know what comes next, because the child that was you will not stay silent forever, and neither will the truth. It never comes off, no matter how much you scrub, no matter how many times you let rain wash over you or let sand scour your hands raw, no matter how fiercely you tell yourself it's gone. The blood lingers. It clings to you, seeps into the cracks of your gauntlets, hides beneath the plates where your fingers bend. You look down, and even now beneath the desert stars you swear you can still see it glistening. Red, dark, unyielding. That's the price of survival. That's the price of honor. That's the price of the creed. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The quarry stirs weakly beside you, breath shallow, eyes half-lidded. Their blood has stained you too, fresh and hot, seeping into your gloves until it feels indistinguishable from the blood of all the others. Your enemies, your brothers, your past. The galaxy doesn't care whose blood it is. It only knows that it's there. And when it stains your gauntlets, it stains you. The night is still, too still. The desert wind carries only silence, broken by the low hiss of sand shifting across stone. But beneath it, you hear them. Engines in the distance, rumbling like thunder across the horizon. The Empire has not stopped. Their shadows stretch farther than the light of any stars. And you, burdened by blood, can feel them closing in. You stare at your gauntlets again, visor catching the faint sheen of crimson across Beskar. The HUD flickers in the glow of starlight, outlining the stains as though mocking you, reminding you that no matter how many lives you save or take, the blood will always remain. And the question burns hotter than blaster fire. How much blood makes you a Mandalorian? You rise, gauntlets heavy, armor groaning as you lift the quarry once more. Their body feels frailer now, their warmth fading, but still they cling to life. Still their words echo in your mind. Jedi, clones, truth, the child, that was you. You stagger across the desert, boots sinking into sand that hisses against your armor, wind biting cold against your cape. Every step feels like it sinks deeper into the past you cannot bury. The horizon glows faintly with fire. The city you left behind is still burning, smoke rising into the night like a funeral pyre. You smell it even here, acrid and bitter, crawling into your filters until it tastes like guilt. You turn away, but you cannot turn away from the memories. Not the ones etched into your bones, not the ones that stain your gauntlets. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You carry every death with you. The quarry's voice trembles through the silence, weaker now, but still sharp enough to cut. You've killed for them. You've killed for the creed. But have you ever killed for yourself? You stumble. The words strike harder than the wind. Killed for yourself? No, never. Every life taken was ordered, bought, demanded. Every blaster bolt fired was duty, contract, creed. Your gauntlets are soaked in blood, but none of it was for you. And in that realization, you feel the chains tighten. The desert shifts. Shadows stretch across the dunes, long and jagged, cast by ships sweeping low overhead. Searchlights slice the darkness, cutting through sandstorms, searching for prey. You duck into the rocks, pressing the quarry close, your gauntlets scraping against stone. The blood smears across the rock face, leaving marks even here, even now. No matter where you hide, the galaxy will always know where you've been. Stormtroopers descend again, their white armor glowing like bone in the dark. Their boots strike the sand in unison, rifles gleaming, voices bark orders, words sharp and empty. You hear them closer, closer, until you can feel the ground trembling beneath their march. You grip your blaster. The quarry pulls weakly at your arm, their voice a rasp. Don't fig! Ate for them. Don't fight for creed. Fight because you want to. Your gauntlets tighten around the weapon, leather creaking beneath Beskar. You feel the dried blood cracking in the joints of your fingers. You raise the blaster, and in that moment, you don't know if you are fighting for yourself or simply drowning deeper in the blood already spilled. The first shot echoes across the dunes, red light splitting the night. The troopers fire back, bolts tearing into rock, sparks showering across your armor. You dive behind cover, quarry gasping beside you. The smell of ozone fills the air, hot and bitter, every breath clawing at your lungs. You fire again, bolts slamming into white plates, troopers collapsing into the sand. Their blood doesn't show, not beneath the armor, but you know it's there. You always know. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every victory tastes like loss. The battle rages, blaster fire screaming across the dunes, smoke rising from shattered stone. You fight until your rifle hums with heat, until your gauntlets burn with friction, until your breath rattles like broken glass in your throat. The quarry clings to you, their blood staining fresh over old, mixing into the crimson you will never wash away. And then, the silence returns, heavy, final. The last trooper falls, their rifle clattering against the sand, their body sinking into the dune. The engines above fade into distance, leaving only the whisper of wind. You stand there, chest heaving, visor reflecting the carnage. The sand is littered with bodies, their armor cracked, their blood unseen but felt. You lower your blaster slowly, and for a moment you feel nothing. No triumph, no pride, only weight. You look down at your gauntlets again, and the blood is everywhere. Not just theirs, not just the quarry's, yours, the child's. Everyone you have ever carried, lost, or killed, all of it clings to you now, heavy and suffocating, and you realize the truth you have tried to bury. The creed doesn't care about blood. The Empire doesn't care about blood. The galaxy doesn't care about blood. Only you do. The quarry's hand trembles as it grips your wrist, their touch weak but unyielding. Their eyes burn, fever bright, staring into your visor as though they can see through the Beskar. This isn't who you are. You're still that child. You don't have to drown in their blood. The words twist inside you, cruel and tender. You want to believe them. You want to believe that the blood on your gauntlets isn't forever. But the truth is carved into your bones. The blood never leaves. It only spreads. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The galaxy never forgives you. The night grows colder. The wind howls against the dunes, carrying whispers like ghosts. You kneel beside the quarry, their breath slowing, their body trembling. You press your gauntlets against their wound, blood seeping fresh between your fingers. It stains you deeper. You tell yourself it's to save them, but part of you knows it's also to feel alive, to feel like the blood means something. The horizon glows faint again, engines roaring, lights piercing the dark, more ships, more troopers. The hunt is endless. You realize you could keep running, keep fighting, keep staining your gauntlets until they are drowned in crimson, and still, it would never be enough, because blood never washes away. You look at the quarry one last time. Their eyes flutter shut, their voice barely audible. If you want to be free, if you want to save the child that was you, you'll have to choose whose blood you're willing to carry. The engines roar closer, wind whipping against your cape, sand stinging like blades. You tighten your grip on the quarry, your gauntlets slick with red. You raise your head to the stars, sharp and silent, and wonder if they see you drowning. The blood on your gauntlets, it glistens in the starlight. And you know, whatever choice you make next will only add more, because blood is the only currency the galaxy understands, and yours is running out. The chains do not rattle, they are silent. That's what makes them dangerous. You don't feel them bind you at first. You don't hear their weight as they close around your wrists, or the clink as they settle into your bones. They don't scrape, they don't bruise, they freeze. Cold, invisible links that seep into your marrow until you cannot tell if you are wearing them or if you were born with them. That's what it means to belong to the guild. The desert is far behind now. The quarry lies unconscious, pale against the flickering light of the ship's hold. Their blood stains the deck, a trail that follows you no matter how many times you tell yourself you've cleaned it. You sit opposite them, helmet lowered, the hum of hyperdrive vibrating through your spine. The stars stretch into endless streaks beyond the viewport, silent and merciless. And in that silence, you hear the chains, not in sound, but in memory. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never just free. You are always owned by someone. The guild doesn't speak with fire. It doesn't roar with engines or hiss with blaster bolts. It whispers. It seeps. It breathes through contracts delivered in silence, bounties etched into flickering holograms, credits that slip across tables like blood on steel. It convinces you that honor is survival, that obedience is freedom, that chains are simply another word for creed. And you believed it. You remember the first time you took a puck, the glow against your visor, the face staring back, the voice of your handler as cold as space itself. Deliver them alive, dead if necessary, credits on completion, no kindness, no warning, just chains wrapped in steel. You nodded without hesitation, not because you agreed, not because you understood, but because the creed told you this was the way. The guild became your family, not of blood, not of choice, but of chains. Brothers and sisters who never looked at you with eyes, only through visors. Conversations muted by helmets, drinks shared without faces. Laughter hollow, distorted by filters, always half a sound away from silence. You lived among them, you fought beside them, and still, you were alone. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Even in a crowd, you are a ghost. The quarry stirs. Their eyes flicker open, weak but burning. They whisper words you don't want to hear, but words that pierce anyway. The guild, they don't care about you. They never did. You're just another chain they tighten, another blade they point. You don't answer. Your gauntlets flex against your knees, leather creaking, metal cold. You want to deny it. You want to tell them they're wrong, that the guild gave you a place, a purpose, a creed. But you know the truth. The guild didn't give you purpose. It sold you one. The hyperdrive hum shifts, the stars slowing back into points of light. The Navi computer beeps. Destination reached. Your stomach tightens, a knot of dread coiling deeper than hunger. You know what waits. You know the guild doesn't forgive hesitation, and you know you've hesitated too long. The ship pierces orbit, the planet rising beneath you, not bright and lush like the hollows they sell in core propaganda, not green, not gold, gray, a world of steel and smoke, guild halls carved into stone like tombs. The air tastes of rust even before you land, filters humming harder to scrub the weight of it from your lungs. You disembark, boots striking the Durasteel platform with hollow thuds. The air is heavy, damp, carrying the stench of oil and sweat. Neon flickers against wet stone, casting long shadows that stretch farther than they should. The quarry stumbles beside you, wrists bound, their eyes darting nervously beneath bruises. Every step closer to the guild feels like another nail hammered into the coffin of your choice. Inside, the hall is cold, not the kind of cold that numbs your skin, but the kind that seeps into your spirit. Torches burn low against the walls, their flames flickering weakly, casting helmets into silhouettes. The guild members sit in silence, dozens of them, their visors reflecting you as you pass. You see yourself multiplied 100 times, faceless, nameless, chained. At the end of the hall, the handler waits, a figure taller than the rest, armor marked with scars that tell stories no one dares to ask about. Their voice is flat, devoid of warmth, each word sharp enough to cut. You've brought the bounty. You push the quarry forward. They stumble, fall to their knees, their blood smearing across stone. Their voice is a rasp, but they look up, eyes burning with defiance. You'll kill me. You'll bury the truth. And they gesture at you, weakly but fiercely. He'll let you, because that's what chains do. They choke until you forget you ever had a choice. The hall is silent. The guild watches. Dozens of visors reflecting your hesitation, magnifying it until it drowns you. You feel the chains coil tighter, colder, wrapping around your throat, your wrists, your bones. You know what they expect. Deliver the quarry, take the credits, obey. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your life belongs to everyone but you. The handler steps closer. Their visor glints in the firelight. Their gauntlet extends, hand open. The puck, they command. Your hand moves. Automatically, gauntlet trembling as you retrieve it. The puck flickers in your grip, hologram flashing the quarry's face one last time. You stare at it, visor reflecting the fear and fire in their eyes. And for a heartbeat, you are back in the fire yourself, the child that was you, small, powerless, saved by chains. The guild waits. The handler's hand does not shake. The quarry breathes raggedly, eyes locked on yours, daring you to decide. And for the first time, you hesitate. The silence is louder than any blaster fire. Your gauntlet trembles. The puck slips from your grip, clattering against the stone. The sound echoes through the hall, sharp and final. The quarry's eyes widen. The guild shifts. The handler's voice cuts through the silence. You question the way. Your visor reflects the torchlight. Your chest rises and falls, each breath shallow, loud in your ears. You hear the creed echo in your bones. This is the way. But you hear the quarry too. You're still that child. You don't have to drown in their blood. The handler's hand lowers slowly. Their voice grows colder. The guild does not forgive doubt. And in that moment, you understand the chains more clearly than ever. They were never meant to protect you. They were meant to bind you, to keep you silent, to keep you useful. And the only way to break them is to choose. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Choice was always the most dangerous weapon you could carry. You lift your head. Your voice is steady, though your heart pounds against the armor like a trapped beast. I will not deliver them. The hall erupts. Voices rise, distorted through helmets. A storm of anger and disbelief. The handler steps back, blaster drawn, its hum filling the silence that follows. The quarry gasps, shock mingling with hope. The guild's visors all turn to you, endless reflections of the warrior who just broke their chains. You raise your blaster too. The cold chains of the guild snap, and in the ringing silence that follows, you know you've just traded one prison for another, but at least this one is yours. The handler's voice cuts sharp, final, deadly. Then you are no longer guild. You fire. The hall explodes into chaos. Blaster bolts scream across stone, sparks shower, torches shatter. The guild rises as one, dozens of rifles raised, the storm consuming you whole. You drag the quarry into cover, your heart hammering louder than the battle itself. The creed is gone now. The chains are gone. All that remains is survival, and the truth that the quarry carries. But even as you fight, even as bodies fall and blood stains your gauntlets anew, you know the guild will not stop. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. You've broken their chains, and for that, they will hunt you until the stars themselves burn out. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Freedom is never free. And as the smoke chokes the hall, as the handler's shadow looms closer through the fire, you realize the truth you've been avoiding. The guild was never just chains, it was family, and now it is your enemy. You thought the war was over. That's what they always tell you, that battles end, that treaties hold, that the dead rest once the guns fall silent. But the truth drips through the cracks like oil. Wars don't end. They wait. They bury themselves in silence, in whispers, in shadows. And when you least expect it, they rise again, hungrier than before. You feel it now, thrumming beneath your boots as you move through the ruined streets. The air tastes of rust and smoke, every breath scratching your throat raw. The quarry leans against you, weak but stubborn, their blood still staining your gauntlets. Their weight drags you down, but their words drag you deeper. The war never ended, they just made you believe it did. You want to deny it, you want to tell them they're wrong. But the city around you refuses to lie. Shattered walls, burned out husks of homes, stormtroopers clashing with scavengers in alleys that reek of blood. Above it all, ships scream through the night sky like blades tearing the heavens open. This isn't peace. This isn't order. This is war, worn thin, hidden beneath layers of propaganda, but still alive, still feeding. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are forged in wars that never die. The quarry coughs, their voice weak but sharp. You think the guild, the empire, the creed, they're all different, but they're not. They're just masks worn by the same war. Their eyes glint fever-bright in the light of a burning building. You want to look away, but you can't, because you know they're right. You remember Camino. You weren't there, but the whispers never died. Rain hammering against Durasteel, rows of white-armored soldiers birthed in silence. Lives manufactured, sold, commanded into obedience. A war fought by men who had no choice but to fight. They said it ended. They said victory came. But victory never tastes like victory. It tastes like silence. In the silence of graves, the silence of forgotten names, you march through the rubble, blaster raised, visor scanning. Every sound twists your nerves tighter. The scrape of stone, the hiss of steam, the echo of blaster fire far too close. You feel the war pressing in from every side, breathing through cracks in the walls, clawing through the shadows. The quarry limps beside you, their words breaking through the noise. The Jedi fought. The clones obeyed, the Mandalorians. You survived, but surviving isn't living. Surviving is just another kind of war. You stop. The words dig deep, deeper than you want to admit. Surviving has always been the creed, the way, the honor. But now, standing in the ashes of a city swallowed by both empire and guild, you realize survival feels hollow. A war without an end, a battle without a victory. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your victories never last. You push forward, the quarry leaning heavier, their breath shallow. The night grows darker, stars swallowed by smoke. You hear stormtroopers ahead, boots striking stone, voices clipped and sharp. You drag the quarry into cover, pressing against a wall cracked with blaster fire. Their voice hisses in your ear. Do you hear it? That rhythm. That's not soldiers marching. That's war itself. It never stopped. It never will. You close your eyes, breath rattling through filters, and you hear it too. The rhythm. The same rhythm you heard as a child, hiding in fire. The same rhythm you heard in the forge, hammer striking Beskar. The same rhythm you heard when you marched with your brothers, step for step, breath for breath. A war drum that never stopped beating. You remember their faces, or rather, the lack of them. Helmets gleaming, visors cold, voices distorted. You remember the feeling of unity, of being part of something larger. You thought it was honor. You thought it was strength. But now, you wonder if it was just another mask. Another way war disguised itself as family. The stormtroopers pass. You slip from cover, quarry stumbling beside you, your blaster steady in your gauntlet. The streets narrow, walls closing in like the jaws of a beast. Fires burn low, their smoke stinging your visor. You taste ash. You hear the whispers of civilians huddled in ruins, eyes wide, too afraid to speak. They look at you, and in their silence you hear the same truth again. The war never ended. It only changed its name. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are always someone else's soldier. You reach the outskirts of the city, the wasteland stretching beyond, dark dunes under a bruised sky. But freedom is an illusion. Engines roar above, thrusters scorching the horizon. Imperial transports descend, their shadows sprawling across sand like claws. The quarry collapses to their knees, coughing blood, their voice breaking but fierce. You see, they never stopped. The Republic became empire. The Guild became chains. The Creed became prison. The war never ended. You grip their arm, hauling them up, your gauntlets smeared with fresh crimson. You feel the heat of their blood, sticky and unyielding, and it mixes with every life you've carried before. Brothers, enemies, strangers, all of them part of the same war, all of them staining you forever. The transports land. White armored soldiers spill out, rifles raised, voices barking orders. Their march is steady, mechanical, endless. You raise your blaster, your visor catching the glow of their rifles, the reflection of your own fear. You tell yourself you're ready. You tell yourself you've fought before. But deep inside, you know you're not fighting a battle. You're fighting a cycle, one that began long before you, one that will continue long after. You fire. The bolt sears through the night, cutting down the first trooper. The quarry cries out, crawling to cover. The troopers return fire, red streaks slicing through smoke, sand erupting in showers. You dive, armor rattling, gauntlets burning against the grip of your rifle. The air fills with the stench of ozone and blood, every breath heavy with iron. The battle swallows you whole. You fight until your rifle hums, until your gauntlets ache, until your breath comes ragged. The quarry screams warnings, their voice breaking under the thunder of blasters. The night becomes chaos, red bolts, white armor, smoke rising into the stars. You drop another trooper, then another, but they keep coming. They always keep coming. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You never run out of enemies. The quarry drags themselves closer, blood soaking their side. Their voice is raw, desperate. Don't you see? This isn't about me. This isn't about them. This is about the war. It doesn't end. It never ends. Unless someone makes it end. The words cut deeper than any wound. You fire again, dropping a trooper at close range. Sparks spraying across your visor. You press the quarry against the wall, their eyes wide, fever bright. You want to tell them they're wrong. That one warrior cannot stop a war. That one choice cannot break chains forged in generations. But deep inside, the child that was you whispers something else. Maybe one choice is all it takes. The transports roar overhead again, their cannons glowing, targeting the ruins. The ground shakes, sand spraying into the air, fire blooming across the horizon. You shield the quarry with your body, heat washing across your armor, gauntlets searing with pain. You stagger, your vision flickering static. The quarry gasps, their voice breaking. This is the war that never ended, the one they keep feeding. If you walk away now, you're just feeding it too. You lift your head slowly, visor catching the fire. The stormtroopers march closer, rifles raised, their shadows stretching long across the sand. The transports circle, engines howling, lights slicing the night. The war is here. It has always been here, and now it demands your answer. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The war is never yours to win, but it is always yours to fight. You grip your blaster tighter, gauntlets slick with blood, armor heavy with scars. You step forward, placing yourself between the quarry and the tide of white-armored soldiers. The night holds its breath. Your visor reflects their faceless helmets, your own reflection staring back at you. The child, the warrior, the prisoner, all of them waiting. You raise your blaster. The war never ended, and tonight, you decide whether it ever will. You forget sometimes that there is a face beneath the helmet. It doesn't breathe the air. It doesn't feel the wind. It doesn't touch the galaxy except through filters and glass. It is hidden so long that you begin to wonder if it still belongs to you at all. You tell yourself it is safer this way, that the helmet is protection, that the creed is truth. But in the silence between battles, when the visor reflects only your own shadow back at you, a darker question gnaws its way into your bones. What if there is nothing left of you without it? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The mask is not just armor, it is you. You sit in the wreckage of a burned-out transport, the smell of scorched metal filling your lungs, the quarry's weak breathing the only sound beside your own. Their blood stains the floor, a crimson trail smeared across steel. You press a ragged cloth against their wound, your gauntlets slick, the stain seeping deeper. Your visor reflects their pale face, human, fragile, bare. And for a moment, you envy them. Even bleeding, even hunted, they are unmasked. They are still themselves. You are not. You remember the forge, the hammer, the fire, the voice that told you the helmet never comes off. Not in front of others, not before enemies, not even before family. The helmet is your creed. The helmet is your life. You accepted it. You obeyed it. But the longer you wore it, the more it became something else. Not a shield, a prison. You raise your head, visor catching the faint glow of fire outside. Stormtroopers prowl the streets, their searchlights cutting across ruins. You hear their boots crunch glass and bone. You hear their voices bark orders, cold and mechanical. They hunt you, and in their faceless visors, you see yourself. Another mask, another soldier hiding a face that the galaxy will never remember. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You become me, the very thing you swore you weren't. The quarry stirs, their voice raw but fierce. You hide behind steel, but do you even know what's left of you under it? Do you remember your own face? The words strike harder than blaster fire. You don't answer. You can't, because the truth is, you don't remember. Not clearly. You remember being a child, crying in fire, but even that memory is blurred by smoke. You remember a hand reaching for you but not the face that held it. Every reflection you've seen since has been the visor. Every voice you've heard since has been distorted through filters. Every breath you've taken has echoed inside the cage. You wonder if the child's face was burned away the day the Mandalorians saved you, or if it was buried alive beneath Beskar. The quarry coughs, blood flecking their lips, but their eyes burn with something you cannot look away from. The Empire wants me dead because I carry truth, but maybe the truth you fear most is the one inside your helmet. You clench your gauntlets, leather creaking, the blood of battle drying across them. You want to deny it. You want to silence them, but the words echo in the silence anyway. The truth you fear most is yourself. The stormtroopers close in. You hear them outside, rifles humming, boots scraping against stone. You know they will find you soon. You know you must move, but the helmet feels heavier now, heavier than the armor, heavier than the creed. You feel it pressing against your skull, squeezing your breath, whispering the creed you've repeated 1,000 times. This is the way. But for the first time, you wonder if it's a lie. You haul the quarry to their feet, dragging them deeper into the ruins. Smoke burns your lungs, the stench of fire clawing into filters. Every step rattles the floor, your boots crunching against debris. You hear the stormtroopers closer now, their searchlights cutting through the cracks. You push the quarry forward, every movement weighed down by the face you cannot show. You slip into the tunnels beneath the city. The air is damp, heavy with mold, the drip of water echoing like a clock. The quarry leans against you, their breath ragged. You keep your blaster ready, visor glowing faint in the dark. The walls close in, shadows pressing tighter, until it feels like the helmet itself has grown to fill the world. You can't escape it. You can't breathe without it. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The mask never comes off, even when you want it to. You stop suddenly. A pool of water glistens in the tunnel floor, black as void, reflecting the faint green of your visor. You crouch over it, staring into the ripples. The reflection is not you, it is the mask, always the mask. You reach out, gauntlet brushing the surface, ripples distorting the image. For a heartbeat, you think you see something beneath the visor, a flash of skin, eyes, a child's face, but then it's gone, swallowed by the ripples. The quarry whispers, their voice breaking the silence. You don't even know your own reflection. Your gauntlet trembles. You want to rip the helmet off. You want to feel the air, even if it burns. You want to see your face, even if it's scarred. But the creed echoes louder. The helmet never comes off. It hammers in your skull, every word a chain. You clench your fists until blood drips beneath the plates, staining steel. The stormtroopers' voices echo down the tunnel. You snap your blaster up, pulling the quarry behind you. Boots strike metal, rifles hum. The shadows flicker. With white armor, you fire. Bolts screaming down the corridor, sparks showering stone. Troopers collapse, their helmets cracking against the floor. You advance, every step loud, every shot louder. The tunnel fills with smoke and screams, the stench of blood mixing with mold. You kill, you survive, you obey the creed. But when the smoke clears, you look down at the bodies, and all you see is yourself. Helmets shattered, faces hidden forever, reflections of the mask you cannot remove. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The enemy is always yourself. You drag the quarry deeper into the tunnels, your breath ragged, visor fogging with heat. You want to rest. You want to stop, but the stormtroopers will not. The war will not. The creed will not. You press forward until the tunnel opens into a chamber lit by faint shafts of moonlight from cracks above. The air tastes cleaner here, but colder. The quarry slumps against the wall, their voice a whisper. If you never take it off, if you never see yourself again, then who are you really? You freeze. The chamber is silent. The moonlight glints across your visor, painting your reflection pale against steel. You don't answer. You can't, because you don't know. You kneel beside them, gauntlet pressed against their wound, blood staining deeper into your armor. You whisper words you don't mean, words the creed gave you. This is the way. But the quarry shakes their head weakly, eyes burning. No, it's just the mask. The words hang in the silence like a blade pressed to your throat. The mask, not the creed, not the honor, just the mask. You look away, but the shadows follow. The helmet hums against your skull, your breath echoing too loud inside it, your vision blurred by its glow. You feel the weight pressing tighter, whispering that you are nothing without it, that you are no one without it, that your face, the face you cannot show, died long ago. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You wonder if you've been dead all along. The stormtroopers return. Their voices echo in the tunnels, closer, louder. The chamber shakes with their march. The quarry grips your arm, their voice faint but fierce. Choose, them or yourself, the creed or the truth. You raise your blaster slowly, visor catching the moonlight, reflecting shadows across the stone. The troopers' lights cut through the dark, their rifles aimed, their voices barking. You stand in the center, between the quarry and the tide, between the mask and the face beneath it. The helmet presses tighter, the creed whispers louder, the war breathes heavier, and you realize the face you cannot show may be the only thing that can save you now. The stormtroopers raise their rifles, and for the first time in your life, your hand drifts toward the helmet's edge. Trust is a fragile thing. It doesn't shatter with sound. It splinters in silence. It bends beneath whispers, warps beneath half-truths, until you no longer know if the figure standing at your side is a companion or a blade waiting for the right moment to strike. Out here, in the outer rim, in the war that never ended, trust is the rarest currency. And you, Mandalorian, are already bankrupt. The stormtroopers are gone, for now. Their bodies litter the tunnels, their helmets cracked, their rifles cooling in blood that stains the stone. The stench of ozone and iron burns your lungs through the filters, every breath tasting like ash. The quarry lies against the wall, their chest rising and falling shallowly, their face pale but defiant. You kneel beside them, gauntlets slick, armor heavy, and for the first time, you admit to yourself that you cannot do this alone. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed tells you to walk alone, but survival never lets you. You rise slowly, visor sweeping the chamber. Shadows stretch long across the walls, flickering with the faint light of dying torches. And in those shadows you hear it, a shift, a scrape, the faintest whisper of boots against stone. Instantly your blaster rises. The quarry stirs weakly, eyes narrowing. Not them, they rasp. Not Empire, something else. A figure steps forward, cloaked in tattered fabric that reeks of dust and spice, their face hidden beneath a mask as weathered as the stone itself. They raise their hands slowly, palms open, voice low and steady. You've made quite a mess, Mandalorian. The Guild will want your head for this. The Empire too. Lucky for you, not everyone wants the same thing they do. Your visor locks on them, every instinct screaming caution. The quarry coughs, whispering through clenched teeth. Careful, allies are just enemies who haven't chosen their moment yet. The figure laughs softly, a sound like sandpaper scraping metal. She's not wrong, but neither is she right. Sometimes shadows need each other to survive the fire. You keep your blaster raised, the weight of the creed pressing in. Trust is weakness. Trust is death. Yet you feel the war tightening around you, enemies multiplying, choices narrowing. You lower the weapon slightly, but not fully. Why are you here? The figure steps closer, moonlight glinting across their mask. Because war breeds strange alliances. The Empire grows fat on silence. The Guild chains those who should be free. And Mandalorians? Well, Mandalorians bleed until there is nothing left. You can't fight them all alone, but together, they tilt their head toward the quarry. Together, maybe you can buy more time than any of us deserve. You don't trust them. You can't. But the quarry nods weakly, their eyes burning through pain. Take it. Take the help, or die here. Those are your choices. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed never prepared you for choice. You holster your blaster, slow and reluctant. The figure inclines their head, cloak shifting with the faint smell of oil and dust. They move forward, kneeling beside the quarry, examining the wound with practiced hands. She won't last long without a med pack. I know where to find one, but you'll need to trust me. The word scrapes across you like a blade. Trust. It tastes bitter, worse than blood, worse than ash. You feel the helmet pressed tighter, the creed whispering, this is the way. The way doesn't trust. The way doesn't bend, the way doesn't shift, but shadows do. You nod once, the figure rises, motion fluid, their voice carrying into the dark. Then follow me, and keep your blaster ready. Shadows don't just shift, they bite. The tunnels wind deeper, air growing colder, damp stone dripping into black pools. Your visor adjusts, green glows, painting walls cracked with age. The quarry stumbles beside you, supported between your arm and the stranger's. Each step echoes like a heartbeat, too loud, too vulnerable. You smell rust and mold, the faint sweetness of decay. The war hides in places like this, quiet, patient, waiting for fools who believe they've escaped it. The stranger moves with confidence, their cloak whispering across stone. You study them in silence, every instinct tuned for betrayal. Their steps are careful, too careful, like someone who knows the tunnels too well. You wonder if you are being led into safety or into a grave. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every path looks like an ambush. The quarry whispers faintly, leaning against you. Don't trust too easily. I've seen it. Allies who shift with the wind, shadows that sell you the moment the price is right. You glance at them, visor reflecting their pale, bloodied face. And you? Their eyes flash with faint humor, even through pain. Me? I already told you. I'm not worth selling. I'm worth burying. The stranger stops suddenly, hand raised. You freeze, blaster snapping up, visor sweeping the dark. Ahead, voices echo faintly. Stormtroopers, their tones clipped, their boots striking stone. The stranger gestures toward a narrow passage hidden behind rubble. This way, unless you'd rather meet them head-on. You hesitate. Every muscle in your body demands defiance, demands battle. But the quarry is weak, your ammo low, your armor scarred. You follow. The passage is tight, walls scraping your cape, the stench of mold thicker here. The stranger leads swiftly, their movements precise, like someone who has walked this road before. You emerge into a chamber lit by faint blue light. A table sits in the center, cluttered with stolen crates, weapons, and a med pack glowing faintly. The stranger kneels, opening the pack, pulling out tools that glint in the light. Hold her still. You lower the quarry carefully, your gauntlets trembling against their way. Gaity. The stranger works quickly, cleaning the wound, sealing it with Bacta spray. The quarry gasps, eyes fluttering, but their breathing steadies. The stranger's voice is quiet, almost reverent. The Empire hunts truth like it hunts prey. You've carried her far, but if you want her to live, if you want the truth to live, you'll need more than creed. Your visor narrows. And what do you want? The stranger looks up, mask gleaming faintly. To see the Empire bleed, to see the guild choke on its own chains, to survive, just like you don't answer. You can't, because deep inside, the ember of doubt smolders hotter. Maybe they're right. Maybe shadows are the only allies left when light dies. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You can never tell the difference between an ally and an enemy until it's too late. The quarry rests, breath steadier, eyes fluttering closed. You rise slowly, blaster heavy in your gauntlet, visor fixed on the stranger. The silence stretches, long and sharp. And then, you hear it, a rumble above, engines, heavy, hungry. The chamber trembles, dust raining from cracks. The stranger tilts their head, voice calm. They found us. You turn toward the quarry, their eyes flickering open, voice a whisper. Told you. Shadows shift, trust breaks. The only question is, who breaks first? The engines roar louder, the chamber shaking, the ceiling groaning under the weight of descending ships. You grip your blaster, gauntlets slick with blood and sweat, visor flashing red warnings across your HUD. You stand between the quarry, the stranger, and the storm above, allies with shifting shadows. And as the dust begins to fall, as the war closes in from every side, you realize the cruelest truth of all. Sometimes you don't survive the shadows. Sometimes you just become one. It doesn't come with a blaster bolt. Betrayal never does. It doesn't announce itself in fire or in thunder. It comes quietly, like a shadow sliding across your shoulder, like a whisper slipping into your ear. By the time you feel it, by the time you name it, it's already too late. The chamber still shakes with the roar of engines above, dust raining from the cracks, the war closing in. The quarry lies pale, but breathing, Bacta still fresh against their wound. The stranger stands near the door, cloak shifting with every tremor, their mask reflecting the dim light. For a moment you think they are still an ally, a fragile, shifting shadow that hasn't yet turned. And then, you see it, their hand lingering too long on their belt, their stance angled slightly away from you, their head tilted not toward the quarry, but toward the ceiling, as if listening to commands that aren't yours. The betrayal is already there. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You never saw the blade until it was already inside you. Your gauntlet tightens around the blaster. The quarry stirs, whispering weakly, "Told you." Shadows shift. Their eyes meet yours, fever bright, filled with something crueler than pain. Vindication. They knew, and now you know too. The stranger's voice cuts through the rumble, calm, measured. The Empire will be here in minutes. If we stay, we die. If we go together, we live. You want to believe it. You want to believe that shadows can walk beside you, that allies can stand in the dark without vanishing. But the air tastes wrong, bitter, metallic, like betrayal has a flavor, sharp against the tongue. You step slightly to the side, blaster lowered but ready, visor narrowing. Why are they here so quickly, you ask? The stranger doesn't answer. Not at first. They tilt their head, mask catching a shaft of pale moonlight, and for a moment their silence says more than wow. Words ever could. Then finally, because someone had to tell them where to look, the words don't sting. They freeze. They crawl down your spine, colder than space, heavier than Beskar. You already knew. Deep inside, you already knew. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You could survive every battle, but you could never survive trust. The quarry coughs, blood flecking their lips. Their voice is hoarse, but sharp. You led them here. You always meant to. That's why you found us in the tunnels. That's why you knew where the medpack was. The stranger shrugs, cloak rippling like smoke. And yet, I kept her alive. If I wanted her dead, she'd be dead. If I wanted you dead, Mandalorian, you wouldn't still be breathing. I gave you a chance. Your gauntlets tremble. Every muscle in your body screams to fire, to end this before betrayal digs deeper. But something inside you hesitates. Something that always hesitates when choice demands more than creed. Because the stranger isn't wrong. They had every chance to kill you, and yet here you stand, alive, armed, angry. The engines roar louder above, the chamber shaking, dust choking the air. The stranger steps closer, voice steady even through the tremors. We all betray something. You betrayed the guild. You betrayed your creed when you hesitated. Why judge me for betraying an empire that cannot be beaten without blood? You hear the words, and they cut because they are true. You have betrayed the creed, the guild, yourself. Betrayal is not new to you. It has always walked beside you, even when you called it honor. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You live long enough to see yourself become the traitor. The quarry's voice weakens, barely a whisper. Don't trust them. If you do, we're both dead. The stranger's head tilts, their masked gaze fixed on you. You don't have to trust me. Just decide who you'd rather betray. Tonight, them, they gesture to the quarry. Or yourself. The chamber falls silent. The engines howl above, stormtroopers shouting in the distance, boots striking stone. But none of it matters. Not right now. Only this moment. Only this choice. Your visor reflects both of them. The quarry, pale but burning with truth, and the stranger, cloaked and faceless, their betrayal already written in their stance. Two shadows in your path, two lives waiting for your judgment. And you, Mandalorian, caught between them. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Your creed never prepared you for choices that bleed both ways. You lower the blaster slightly, gauntlets trembling. The quarry gasps faintly, their hand clutching your arm, blood smearing across Beskar. Please, they whisper, don't let them bury the truth. Don't let them win. The stranger's voice cuts sharper. Please, they echo, mocking the quarry's weakness. Don't be a fool. Survival isn't about truth. Survival is about betrayal. Learn that, and you might live long enough to matter. The chamber trembles again, a beam crashing from above, sparks showering across stone. Time runs out. You raise the blaster fully, visor locked on the stranger. They don't flinch. They only tilt their heads slightly, as though daring you. The quarry's grip weakens, their eyes fluttering. The stranger's cloak shifts, their hand lingering near their weapon. And you, Mandalorian, stand with blood on your gauntlets and betrayal on every side. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You can never walk forward without breaking something behind you. You exhale, breath fogging the visor, the sound louder than the war outside. Your finger tightens against the trigger. The quarry whispers your name, or maybe just the sound of it, too weak to finish. The stranger tilts their mask, the faintest glint of amusement breaking through the shadows. And then, you choose. The chamber explodes in light. Blaster fur. Screams. Spark shower. Smoke choking the air. The walls quake. The ceiling groans. The engines above roaring like beasts tearing the sky apart. When the smoke clears, one shadow will stand. One shadow will fall. And you, Mandalorian, will carry betrayal in your gauntlets forever. You forget how much it weighs until you're drowning in it. Beskar isn't light. It isn't forgiving. It clings to you like a promise you never meant to make, pressing into your shoulders, digging into your spine, reminding you with every step that survival has a cost. They told you it was indestructible. They told you it was sacred. They told you it was the only thing between you and death. But they never told you the truth. Beskar is heavy. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every piece of armor was a chain disguised as protection. The chamber still reeks of betrayal. Smoke lingers in the air, tasting of burnt stone and blood. The quarry lies weak beside you, breathing shallowly, their eyes half shut but still alive. The stranger is gone, or dead. You don't know. You don't care. All that matters now is the weight pressing down on you, heavier than the armor itself. Your blaster feels like stone in your gauntlet. Your breath echoes too loud inside the helmet. The war above rumbles like thunder waiting to break. You stagger through the tunnels, boots crunching rubble, every step louder than it should be. The quarry leans against you, their blood soaking deeper into your plates, making the Beskar feel even heavier. You drag them forward, but each step feels slower, harder, like the armor itself is fighting you. The creed told you Beskar was strength. The creed told you it made you unbreakable. But strength isn't measured in how much you can carry. Strength is measured in how much you can't put down. And you can't put it down. Not the armor, not the creed, not the blood. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You can't take the weight off even when it crushes you. You reach the surface. The night air hits you sharp and cold, stinging your lungs through the filters. The sky burns with engines and fire, imperial ships blotting out the stars. Searchlights carve across the ruins, hunting you like prey. You crouch low, pressing the quarry into the shadow of a collapsed wall, your visor reflecting the chaos above. The Beskar digs into your shoulders as you crouch, every plate pressing tighter, heavier. The quarry's voice is faint, but sharp enough to pierce. You're breaking under it, aren't you? The armor, the creed, the lies. You think it makes you strong, but it's just crushing you. You don't answer. You can't, because they're right. Every breath feels like it comes through iron. Every movement drags the weight of all you've carried before. The armor doesn't just shield you, it holds you hostage. The searchlights sweep closer. Troopers drop into the ruins, their boots striking stone, their rifles gleaming. Their helmets glint in your visor, white against the fire. You feel your gauntlets tighten, the Beskar cutting deeper into your skin. You rise slowly, blaster heavy, and for the first time you realize the truth. You don't wear the armor wears you. Blaster fire erupts, red streaks scream through the night, sparks showering against rubble. You fire back, every shot a thunderclap in your chest, every recoil shaking the weight deeper into your bones. The quarry drags themselves into cover, their breath ragged, their voice faint. You can't win this fight if you're already drowning in your own armor. You push forward anyway, because that's all you've ever known. Push, fight, survive. Even when the weight drags you down, even when the Beskar feels less like a shield and more like a tomb, you fight because you have no other choice. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed doesn't let you stop, even when you want to. The troopers fall one by one, their bodies slumping into the rubble, their helmets cracking under fire. But more come, they always come, and with each one you drop, the weight grows heavier. Not the armor itself, but what it means. The creed, the blood, the choices, all of it pressing down until you feel like you're sinking into the ground itself. You take cover beside the quarry, your chest heaving, your visor fogging. The quarry looks at you, eyes burning through pain. "Take it off," they whisper. The words freeze you. You stare at them through the visor, their bloodied face reflecting back. What? Take it off. The armor, the helmet, all of it. You think it protects you, but it's just killing you slower than they are. You feel your gauntlets tremble. The creed screams inside you. This is the way. The words echo like chains rattling in your skull. You can't take it off. You won't, because if you do, what are you? Who are you? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You don't know where the armor ends, and you begin. The quarry grips your wrist, blood smearing across steel, their eyes fierce despite the weakness. The Beskar is heavy because you never chose to wear it. They chose for you. The creed chose for you. You were a child, and now you're drowning in chains you never forged. The words cut deeper than any blade. You want to deny them. You want to tell them they're wrong. But deep inside you feel it too. The Beskar doesn't feel like yours. It feels like theirs. The forges, the creeds, the guilds. Every strike of the hammer that shaped it was another link in the chain binding you. Blaster fire erupts again, closer this time. The ground shakes, dust raining across your visor. The quarry slumps, too weak to speak, but their words still echo in your skull. The Beskar is heavy because it isn't yours. You rise, blaster in hand, armor creaking, gauntlets dripping blood. The troopers close in, rifles raised, their visors reflecting your own. For a heartbeat, you see yourself in them, faceless, chained, drowning in armor you never chose. And in that reflection, the weight nearly crushes you. That's when it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You are never free from what they made you. The battle consumes the ruins. Fire burns hotter, smoke choking every breath, the air thick with the stench of blood and ozone. You fight harder, faster, each shot fueled not by creed, not by honor, but by defiance. The armor screams against you, the weight unbearable, but you push anyway, because if you fall here, the Beskar falls with you. The last trooper drops. The ruins fall silent except for the crackle of fire. You stagger, knees buckling, armor clanging against stone as you collapse beside the quarry. Your breath rattles, loud inside the helmet, each inhale sharp, each exhale broken. You stare at your gauntlets, slick with blood, shaking beneath the weight. And for the first time you wonder what it would feel like to be free of it, to rip it off, to breathe air not filtered by creed, to feel the galaxy without chains. The quarry stirs faintly, their voice a whisper. If you don't choose soon, The Beskar will bury you alive. You look down at them, visor reflecting their pale, bloodied face. Your gauntlets tremble, your chest tightens, your breath echoes too loud. The armor presses tighter, heavier, colder. The Beskar is heavy, and tonight it feels heavier than it ever has before. It starts with a weight you never expected, not the weight of Beskar pressing into your shoulders, not the weight of blood staining your gauntlets, not the weight of creed or guild or empire. This weight is different, smaller, fragile, alive. You feel it trembling against your chest as the smoke curls around you, as fire eats the ruins, as the night itself closes in. And for the first time in too long, the galaxy in your arms isn't a weapon, it is a child. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were once that weight, and you never asked to be carried. The quarry is gone now, slipped into unconsciousness, their truth still pulsing like a wound you can't cauterize. But the child remains. You don't even know where they came from. One moment the rubble was empty, the next your visor caught the flicker of movement, tiny hands reaching through smoke, small eyes wide with terror. You grabbed them without thought, without creed, without hesitation, and now they cling to you as though you are the only thing left in a galaxy determined to erase them. Their small breath warms your chest plate. Their tears streak dirt onto your Beskar. Their heartbeat is fast, too fast, echoing against your armor like a drum you cannot quiet. You feel it through the plates, and it burrows deeper than blaster fire ever could, because it sounds like the rhythm of another night, another fire, another child, the child you once were. You remember it vividly now. The screams, the flames, the smell of burning stone and flesh, the weight of hands that carried you away, not gentle but firm, not loving but absolute. You were saved, yes, but you were also taken. And as the child presses their face into your chest, trembling, you realize the cruelest truth. You have become what you once feared, a figure in armor, a shadow in fire, a savior, or a thief. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. No one ever chose you, and now you must choose for them. The ruins shake as Imperial engines thunder overhead. Searchlights cut through smoke, beams slicing across collapsed walls. Stormtroopers march through rubble, rifles raised, voices clipped and mechanical. The child whimpers, their small hands tightening against your cape. You crouch low, pressing into the shadows, your gauntlets trembling not from the weight of battle, but from the weight of innocence clinging to you. The quarry stirs faintly, their voice weak but insistent. Don't let them take it. Don't let them take another child. Their words slice through the smoke like a blade. You know the Empire's hunger. You know what they do with the helpless, with clones, with Jedi, with anyone too small to fight back. The child will vanish into silence, another number in their endless ledger of conquest. And you, Mandalorian, will drown in the blood on your gauntlets forever. You rise slowly, visor glowing faintly in the firelight. The child pressed tight against your chest. The Beskar feels heavier than ever, but the weight in your arms makes it bearable. You move through the ruins, every step careful, every breath slow. The smell of ash burns your lungs. The heat of fire licks at your cape. The sound of boots crunching closer presses against your skull. You slip between shadows, your visor catching glimpses of troopers patrolling, their rifles sweeping, their voices echoing. The child's heartbeat drums against your armor, faster, louder, until it feels like your own. You whisper without thinking, voice low, distorted through filters. Quiet, I've got you. The words surprise you, because you mean them. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were taught to protect armor, not innocence. You reach the edge of the ruins, the desert stretching beyond. Stars, sharp above. The night air tastes of dust and smoke, bitter against your tongue. Engines still rumble, ships circling, searchlights sweeping. The quarry limps behind you, weak but determined, their voice a rasp. Go, get the child out. Don't let the Empire chain another soul. Your gauntlets tighten around the small body in your arms. You feel their warmth, their fragility, their trust. It presses deeper than creed, heavier than Beskar, because you know what it means. If you take them, you betray everything else. The guild, the Empire, The creed, yourself, that's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every choice is a betrayal. The quarry stumbles, collapsing against a broken wall. You glance back, visor catching their pale, determined face. They nod weakly, their voice breaking. Save them. Don't make them live the life you did. You want to argue. You want to say you can't. But the child shifts in your arms, their small hands pressing against your chest, their eyes wide and wet, staring up at the visor that hides your face. And for the first time, you wonder if they see you, or just the mask. You move, boots crunching sand, cape whipping in the wind, blaster heavy in your gauntlet. Stormtroopers close in, rifles raised, lights sweeping. You fire first, bolts splitting the night, sparks showering against armor. The child buries their face into your chest, trembling, but you hold them tighter, shifting them against your side as your rifle roars. Each shot is heavier now, not just survival, protection, not just creed, choice. The troopers fall, smoke rising, rubble cracking beneath their weight. You advance through them, armor clanging, visor glowing. You fight with fervor you didn't know you still had. Each strike fueled, not by honor, not by bounty, but by something older. Something you buried in fire long ago. The child you once were. The child you now hold. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You only remember who you are when it's too late. The battlefield falls silent. The fires crackle low, engines fading into distance. You collapse to your knees, breath ragged, the child pressed tight against you. Their small body shakes, but they are alive. Their breath warms your armor, their heartbeat still drums. You lower your blaster slowly, gauntlets slick with blood, visor fogging with heat. The quarry limps closer, every step a struggle. They kneel beside you, their hand trembling as it brushes the child's hair. Their voice is weak, but sharp. You see, this is the truth. Not the Empire, not the Guild, not the creed. This, protecting what they cannot touch. You stare at the child, visor reflecting their wide, tear-streaked face. And for a moment you see yourself again. Not as warrior, not as creed, as child, small, helpless, saved by strangers, taken by chains. You swore never to remove the helmet, you swore never to break the way, but in this moment with the child in your arms, you realize the cruelest truth. The way was never meant to protect you, it was meant to control you. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed doesn't tell you what to do when a child looks at you and sees salvation. The quarry grips your arm, their voice almost gone. If you want to save them, you'll have to become something the creed never allowed you to be. Not soldier, not hunter, not weapon, father. The word freezes you. It presses heavier than Beskar, sharper than betrayal, deeper than blood. Father, you've never been one. You've never even thought of it. But now, holding the child, you realize the truth. The war is endless. The creed is chains. The armor is prison. And yet, this small life in your arms feels like freedom. The night grows quiet, too still. You hear it before you see it. The low rumble of engines, deeper, louder, closer. Not transports, not patrols. Something larger, something hungrier. The stars above vanish, blotted out by the shadow of a star destroyer descending through the clouds. Its thrusters roar like thunder. Its searchlights blaze like false suns, its cannons swivel toward the ruins. The child whimpers, clutching tighter against you. The quarry's eyes widen with horror. You rise slowly, blaster heavy in one gauntlet, the child pressed tight in the other. Your visor reflects the burning sky, the looming shadow, the storm that cannot be outrun. The child in your arms is warm, alive, fragile, and tonight, they are all that stands between you and the fire. The Star Destroyer opens its hangars, and the hunt begins again. It doesn't return with warning. The shadow falls without sound at first. Sliding across the sand, swallowing the stars, blotting out the last fragile pieces of light the night had left to offer. You don't hear it until the engines growl, deep and thunderous, shaking the ground beneath your boots. You don't see it until the fires of the ruins dim under its looming presence. And when you finally raise your visor to the sky, you understand the truth. The Empire never left. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You never escape shadows. You only live long enough to meet them again. The child whimpers against your chest, their small body trembling, their breath warm against cold Beskar. The quarry leans against the wall, pale, blood still seeping through cloth. Their eyes flicker to the horizon, voice weak but sharp. It's back. It's always back. You can burn the stormtroopers. You can fight the guild, but you can't kill the shadow. You don't answer, because you know they're right. The shadow above isn't just Durasteel and cannons. It's hunger. It's silence. It's inevitability. The Star Destroyer hangs like a second moon, engines burning, searchlights carving across the wasteland. Dropships peel from its belly, streaking toward the ruins, their thrusters howling like beasts. The Empire has returned, not because it left, but because it was always waiting. The quarry coughs, their blood flecking the dust. This is what I meant. The war never ended. It just hid in orbit, waiting for you to believe you were free. Your gauntlets tighten around the child. Their heartbeat pounds against your chest plate, fast and frantic, echoing too loud inside your armor. You whisper, voice low, distorted through filters. Quiet, I've got you. The words sound fragile, almost desperate, but the child stills, their small fingers gripping the edge of your cape. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were never meant to carry lives, only targets. The first dropship slams into the sand beyond the ruins, engines screaming, heat washing across your armor. Dust explodes, choking, sharp against your filters. White-armored soldiers pour out, rifles raised, voices sharp and mechanical. They march in rhythm, faceless, endless. You crouch lower, pressing the child tighter against your chest, your blaster heavy in your gauntlet. The quarry grips your wrist weakly, their voice trembling. Run. If you stay, the shadow will swallow you. You look at them, visor reflecting their pale, bloodied face. Run. You've run before, from fire, from guild, from creed. But shadows don't care how far you run. They always follow. They always return. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Running never ends the hunt. You rise, boots crunching rubble, cape whipping in the wind. The quarry struggles to their feet, leaning against stone, their eyes burning through exhaustion. If you take the child, you'll be hunted until there's nothing left of you. The Empire doesn't forgive. You know, you've always known. But the child shifts against you, small hands clinging tighter, and you realize something crueler. You don't care. Not anymore. The stormtroopers advance, rifles raised, searchlights slicing across the ruins. Their boots echo in rhythm with the hum of engines above, a war drum that drowns out thought. You fire first. The blaster roars, red bolts tearing through armor, sparks spraying against stone. Troopers fall, their bodies slumping into dust, but more flood in, endless, their rifles flashing, their voices cold. The air fills with ozone and fire, every breath thick with ash. The child buries their face against your chest, trembling. You shield them with your body, cape flaring, gauntlets sparking as you fire again and again. Each shot is heavy, each step drags with the wobiu. 8 of armor. Creed, choice. The quarry staggers beside you, firing weakly, their blaster shaking in bloodied hands. The ruins become chaos, smoke choking, blasters screaming, fire blooming across the sand. Troopers fall, but more arrive, pouring from dropships, their shadows stretching long under the glow of fire. And above it all, the Star Destroyer looms, silent, patient. A reminder that this fight isn't a battle. It's survival against inevitability. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every victory is only borrowed time. You drag the quarry into cover, your armor scorched, gauntlets trembling. The child clings tighter, their small voice muffled but desperate. Don't let them take me. The words cut deeper than any bolt. You grip them tighter, your voice a low growl. They won't. But inside, you wonder, how long until the shadow takes them anyway? How long until your arms fail? How long until Beskar itself cracks under the weight? The quarry coughs, their voice breaking. You can't save both of us. You have to choose. The child or me? Your visor snaps toward them, HUD flickering in the smoke. No. They laugh weakly, bitter, blood staining their lips. You've already chosen. You just don't want to admit it. The engines roar above, louder, closer. Another dropship descends, cannons glowing, sand blasting into the air. The ruins quake, stone collapsing, dust blinding. You cover the child with your cape, heat searing your back, your gauntlets burning against the blaster grip. The quarry screams through the roar, their voice carried in static. Go, before the shadow buries you. You stagger forward, the child pressed tight, blaster firing blindly into smoke. Troopers swarm, rifles flashing, bolts slamming into stone. You drop one, then another, sparks spraying across your visor. The quarry's shots echo faintly behind you, then fall silent. You don't dare look back. You can't, because you already know. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every step forward costs another, or life behind you. You push through the smoke, boots sinking into sand, the child clinging tighter, their heartbeat frantic. The Star Destroyer looms above, cannons glowing, hangars yawning open like a mouth ready to swallow the planet whole. Its shadow stretches across the desert, swallowing ruins, swallowing you. The child's voice trembles, small and afraid. Are we going to die? You pause, visor reflecting the burning sky, the endless shadow. Your voice is low, broken, almost human. Not tonight. But even as you say it, you feel the truth pressing down harder than Beskar. The shadow has returned. The Empire has returned. And no matter how far you run, no matter how many you kill, no matter how tight you hold the child, shadows always win in the end. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The war never ends. The shadow never leaves. And tonight, as the Star Destroyer lowers, its cannons locking on your position, its engines screaming across the desert, you realize the cruelest truth of all. The Empire doesn't just cast shadows, it makes you one. Some sieges break walls, others break bones, but the worst siege, the one you can't defend against, lays waste to your soul. You feel it now, clawing through the cracks of your armor, gnawing at the child within you that never healed. The battle outside rages with blasters and fire, but the real war wages in silence, in doubt, in the hollow echo of your own breath inside the helmet. The Empire's shadow looms above, cannons glowing, engines screaming, soldiers pouring into the desert like a flood. But the enemy you fear most doesn't march in white armor. It waits inside you. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The war outside never mattered if you'd already lost the one within. The child clings to you, trembling, their heartbeat pounding against your chestplate. The quarry lies behind, their voice too weak to rise above the roar. You crouch in the ruins, the stench of smoke and blood burning your lungs, your visor reflecting flames that crawl higher into the night. Every plate of Beskar weighs heavier, pressing deeper, dragging you lower. You tell yourself it's just fatigue, just blood loss, just wait, but you know better. It's the siege, the one you can't fight with blasters. The troopers advance through smoke, rifles raised, voices cold and mechanical. Their march is steady, inevitable, a rhythm that gnaws at your nerves. You fire, bolts tearing through armor, sparks exploding across stone. Bodies fall, but more follow, faceless, endless. Their shadows stretch long in the glow of fire, and every step closer feels like another wall collapsing inside you. You press the child tighter against you, their small hands clutching your cape, their voice muffled but desperate. Don't let them take me. The words echo louder than the battle itself, because they're not just the child's words. They're your words, the ones you never spoke, the ones you buried under creed and Beskar. Don't let them take me. But they did. And you've been living as their prisoner ever since. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You never got to grow into yourself, only into your chains. Blaster fire slices past, scorching your cape, sparks showering across your visor. You roll behind rubble, the child clinging tighter, your gauntlets trembling as you return fire. The quarry cries out weakly, their voice breaking. You can't hold forever. Not against them, not against yourself. Their words sting, not because they're wrong, but because they're true. You feel your arms weaken, your vision blur, your breath rattle. You've fought sieges before, against pirates, against guild, against creed. But this one feels different. This one feels final. Because for the first time you wonder if you even want to win. The helmet hums, filters rasping with each shallow breath. The creed echoes inside you, louder than the battle. This is the way. The words hammer against your skull, each syllable a chain. You fight because the creed says fight. You kill because the creed says kill. You carry Beskar because the creed says carry. But none of it feels like yours. And that's the siege, not the troopers, not the Empire, the creed itself. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were never allowed to choose your own war. The child stirs against you, their small voice trembling. Why don't you take it off? Why do you hide? The question pierces sharper than blaster fire. You freeze, your gauntlets tightening around their fragile frame. You don't answer. You can't, because the creed answers for you. The helmet never comes off, but the creed doesn't feel like truth anymore. It feels like a weapon aimed inward. The siege tightens. Stormtroopers press closer, rifles flashing, boots pounding, their shadows stretching until they swallow the last light of fire. You fire back, bolts screaming, armor ringing with impacts. Each shot feels heavier, slower, like you're firing against yourself. The quarry groans, their voice a rasp. You're not fighting them, you're fighting you, and you know they're right. The child's eyes meet yours through the visor, wide, innocent, afraid. And in their gaze you see yourself, small, helpless, crying in fire. You save them because you couldn't save you. But carrying them doesn't break the siege, it only deepens it. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every rescue feels like failure replayed. The troopers close in, surrounding the ruins, rifles aimed, voices shouting. You grip the child tighter, your blaster heavy in the other gauntlet, visor fogging with heat. The creed screams inside you. This is the way. The war outside screams louder. Blasters, engines, boots. But the loudest scream comes from within, the siege of your soul. It whispers that you're nothing without the armor, nothing without the creed, nothing but a child lost in fire, hiding behind Beskar. And for the first time, you almost believe it. You drop to one knee, gauntlets trembling, the child clinging, the quarry staring, stormtroopers closing. You want to surrender, not to them, but to the siege, to the weight, to the chains, to the silence. You almost let go, and then the child speaks again, soft, fragile, but sharper than any creed. You don't have to hide. The words cut chains you didn't know could break. You rise slowly, visor catching the glow of fire, blaster lifting, cape whipping in smoke. The siege doesn't end. It never will. But in that moment, you remember something you forgot long ago. The creed isn't the only voice. Yours matters too. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You only remember you're human when the siege is already at your gates. The stormtroopers fire. Blaster bolts scream. Sparks erupt. Smoke thickens. You fire back, each shot louder, harder, faster. Not for creed, not for guild, not even for survival. For the child, for yourself, for the war you finally chose to fight. Bodies fall. Armor cracks. The ruins shake with fire. But still, the Star Destroyer looms, cannons glowing, engines roaring, shadow swallowing sky. The siege doesn't break. It deepens. It always deepens. And as you stand in the ruins, child in your arms, blood on your gauntlets, the Empire closing from every side, you realize the truth. The siege of your soul isn't about winning. It's about surviving long enough to still call it yours. The engines roar louder, sand blasting into the air, fire crawling higher, stormtroopers advancing again. The quarry gasps, their voice raw. They'll never stop, not until you break. The child whispers, their voice trembling. Don't let them. And you, Mandalorian, you grip your blaster tighter, your soul burning brighter, and you prepare for the next wave. Because the siege isn't over, it never is. It doesn't break with a sound. There is no snap, no shatter, no thunderclap to mark the end. It breaks in silence, in the hollow space between heartbeats, in the moment you realize the words you've repeated your whole life no longer mean anything. You feel it now, as the fires burn low, as the child trembles against your chest, as the shadow of the Star Destroyer swallows the stars above. The way is broken. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The path you walked was never yours to begin with. The battlefield around you is quiet for the first time in hours, but it is not peace. Smoke curls from shattered stone, the stench of ozone and blood stinging your lungs through filters. Bodies litter the sand, white armor cracked, blasters cooling, helmets reflecting the fire. The quarry lies slumped against rubble, their breath shallow, their eyes dim, but still burning. The The child stirs in your arms, their heartbeat fast, their eyes wide, searching the night for safety that does not exist. You look down at them, visor reflecting their small, fragile face, and you feel the weight of everything pressed tighter. The Beskar digs into your shoulders. The creed hums in your skull. The shadow looms above. And for the first time, you whisper it aloud, the words muffled, broken. This is not the way. The quarry coughs, their voice weak but sharp. You finally see it. Took you long enough. You don't answer. You can't, because the words still linger in your mouth, heavy, bitter, like rust. Not the way, not the creed, not the chains hammered into you since fire stole your childhood. You stare at your gauntlets, slick with blood, yours, theirs, everyone's, and realize the truth you've been avoiding since the beginning. The way isn't broken. It was always broken. You just refuse to see it. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You built your life on ruins and called it honor. The chill. It shifts against you, their small hands pressing against your chest plate, their eyes staring up through tears. Why do you hide? They whisper. Why don't you take it off? The question claws deeper than any blade. You feel your hand twitch toward the helmet, fingers trembling against cold Beskar. You want to. You want to feel air not filtered by creed, to see with eyes not caged in visor glow, to show the child there is a face beneath the mask. But the chains tighten, the creed echoes, the helmet never comes off, the quarry groans, their voice cutting through the silence. If you never take it off, you'll never be free. The way was never about protection, it was about control. You feel the words slice through you, sharper than blaster fire. Control, not honor. Not family, not survival, control. The hammer in the forge wasn't shaping armor, it was shaping obedience. Every plate of Beskar, every line of creed, every whisper of "this is the way" was another lock on the cage. The way is broken. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You were never meant to see the cracks. The engines above roar louder, the Star Destroyer descending, its cannons glowing brighter, its shadow stretching until it feels like the night itself is falling. Dropships peel from its belly, engines howling, streaking across the desert. The ground shakes with each descent, dust blasting into the air, the war beginning again before the last battle has ended. You press the child tighter, your blaster heavy in your gauntlet. The quarry struggles to their feet, swaying, blood dripping into sand. Their eyes meet yours, fierce despite exhaustion. If you still follow the way, you'll hand me over. You'll hand the child over. You'll survive. But survival isn't living. Not if you're just a weapon. The words burn, because you know they're true. You've survived every fire, every war, every betrayal. But you, V, never lived. You've only carried armor, creed, chains. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You don't know who you are without what they gave you. The first dropship lands, sand exploding, stormtroopers pouring out, rifles raised, voices sharp, searchlights blaze, cutting across ruins, blinding, merciless. You crouch low, pressing the child into your chest, your visor glowing faint in the beam. You fire, bolts screaming, troopers collapsing. The quarry fires weakly beside you, their blaster shaking, sparks spraying. The air fills with ozone, the stench of blood growing thicker. But the stormtroopers don't stop. They never stop. And as you fight, as blaster bolts scorch your cape, as Beskar rings with impacts, you realize the truth. The creed doesn't protect you from this. The way doesn't save you from this. It never did. It never will. The way is broken. The child cries against your chest, their voice raw, terrified. Don't let them take me. You grip them tighter, your gauntlet slick, your breath ragged. Your voice growls through the helmet, low, final. They won't. But deep inside you wonder, how long can you hold against shadows that never leave? How long before the way breaks you with it? How long before the creed drags you down into silence? That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You can't tell if you're carrying the armor or if it's carrying you. The quarry screams through the roar, their voice sharp. Choose the way or yourself. The words echo louder than the battle, louder than engines, louder than creed. Choose. Not survive, not obey. Choose. You freeze, visor glowing in firelight, gauntlets trembling around the child. The creed hammers in your skull. This is the way. But for the first time the words sound hollow, broken, dead. The way is broken. And in that silence, you realize you already chose. You fire. Blaster bolts tear through troopers. sparks shower, bodies collapse into dust. You fight hard. Faster. Each shot fueled not by creed, but by defiance. Not this is the way, this is mine. The battle swallows you whole, smoke choking, fire blazing, the Star Destroyer looming larger, closer, but for the first time, you don't feel like a weapon, you feel like something more. You feel alive. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You had to break the way to find yourself. The troopers fall, the dropships burn, the ruins shake with fire. You stand in the center, child in your arms, quarry at your side, visor glowing against smoke. Your breath rattles inside the helmet, but your voice is steady, final. The way is broken, and so am I. The child presses their face into your chest, trembling. The quarry stares at you, eyes wide, voice low. Then maybe that means you're finally free. The engines roar above, deafening, thunderous. The Star Destroyer descends lower, its cannons locking, its shadow consuming all. You lift your visor to the sky, Beskar gleaming in firelight, and you realize the cruelest truth of all. Breaking the way doesn't save you. It only makes the Empire hungrier to break you next. The Star Destroyer fires, and the night explodes. The path doesn't begin with choice. It begins with necessity. With hunger gnawing at your ribs, with fire pushing you from the ruins of a childhood, with hands dragging you into shadows you didn't ask to follow. And once you start walking, you don't stop. The path winds across deserts and battlefields, through guild halls and blood-soaked streets, always forward, never free. You think you're hunting, you think you're the one chasing, but deep inside, you know the truth. The hunter's path hunts you. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every step forward is just another step into the trap. The night still burns with the echo of the Star Destroyer's cannons. Smoke curls into the sky, blotting out stars, leaving only red fire and black shadow. The child clings to you, trembling, their breath warm against your chest plate. The quarry limps at your side, pale but unbroken, their eyes fixed on the horizon as if escape could still exist there. But you know better. Horizons aren't escape, they're just further stretches of the same endless path. You move through the wasteland, boots sinking into sand that tastes of ash and iron. The engines rumble overhead, faint but constant, like a storm that never drifts far. You know they're searching, you know they'll never stop. The Empire doesn't need to capture you today, it just needs to keep you moving, moving until your body breaks, until your creed crumbles, until your soul surrenders. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The path was never meant to end. The child stirs, their small voice muffled against your chest. Where are we going? The question freezes you, because you don't know. You've walked this path so long, obeyed so many orders, chased so many bounties, that forward became habit. But where forward leads, you've never asked. You look down at them, visor reflecting their wide, tear-streaked eyes, and your voice is low, hollow. Away! The quarry laughs weakly, bitter, blood staining their lips. Away isn't a place. Away is just another hunt, another path. You're still walking the guild's trail, even if you think you've broken free. Their words cut sharper than any blaster bolt. Because they're right. You left the guild, but you never left the hunt. Every step is pursuit. Every step is survival. Every step is forward because stopping means death. The creed taught you this. The guild reinforced it. The Empire thrives on it. The path is endless. You crest a dune, sand slipping beneath your boots, cape whipping in the wind. The ruins stretch behind you, smoke still rising, fire still burning. Ahead, only desert, vast, empty, silent. But silence doesn't mean peace. Silence means waiting. Silence means shadows. Silence means the hunt is just one step behind. The child whimpers, their voice trembling. I don't want to go anymore. You stop. For the first time in hours, you stop. The sand crunches under your boots. The wind hisses in your visor. The engines rumble faintly above. You look down at them, small and fragile, their hands clutching your cape. And for the first time, you feel the truth claw at you. You don't want to go anymore either. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. You never knew how to stop walking. The quarry collapses to their knees, coughing blood into the sand. You kneel beside them, the child still pressed against your chest, your gauntlets trembling as you grip their arm. Their eyes flicker open, weak but fierce. See? The path doesn't end. It just takes from you until there's nothing left. You can carry me for a while. You can carry the child longer. But in the end, the path carries you, and it doesn't stop until you're a shadow like the rest. You stare at them through the visor, the desert wind cutting sharp, the stars hidden behind smoke. You want to deny it. You want to tell them they're wrong. But you know they're right. The hunter's path doesn't end with victory. It ends with silence. Yours. The engines roar louder, closer. Searchlights sweep across the desert, slicing through dunes, hunting. You grip the quarry's arm, hauling them to their feet, your gauntlets slick with blood. The child clings tighter, their heartbeat frantic. You move again, boots sinking into sand, cape dragging, visor glowing faint. Each step is heavier, slower, harder. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. Every step forward feels like one closer to the grave. The quarry gasps beside you, their voice breaking. You think you're the hunter, but you're not. You never were. You're prey, always were, always will be. The words echo, cruel and true. Prey, not hunter. Prey to the guild, prey to the creed, prey to the empire's endless shadow. You've walked this path so long you forgot what it felt like to choose. You've been moving forward because you thought you had to, but maybe you don't. Maybe the path only continues because you keep walking it. The child's voice breaks your thoughts, small and trembling. Can we stop, please? You freeze. The engines roar above. The searchlights sweep closer. The quarry stumbles beside you. The sand shifts beneath your boots. And for the first time you consider it. Stopping, not moving forward, not surviving, just stopping. That's why it sucked to be a Mandalorian. The creed never gave you a word for peace. The engines thunder overhead, sand blasting into the air, searchlights slicing across your armor. Stormtroopers descend from the sky, rifles gleaming, boots striking stone. The hunt has caught up. The path has looped back on itself, and you realize the truth you've been avoiding since the beginning. The hunter's path isn't endless because it stretches forward. It's endless because it circles, round and round, fire to fire, shadow to shadow, choice to choice, always ending where it began. The quarry grips your arm, their voice raw. Break it, or it breaks you. The child clings tighter, their small voice trembling. Don't let them take me. You raise your blaster slowly, visor reflecting the glow of searchlights, your gauntlets trembling under the weight of both. You stand between them and the storm, between creed and freedom, between endless path and final choice. The troopers march closer, rifles raised, voices sharp. The engines scream overhead. The sand shifts beneath your boots. The child's heartbeat drums against your chest, and you realize the cruelest truth of all. The hunter's path never ends until you decide it does. Your finger tightens against the trigger. The shadow looms closer, and you prepare to break the circle.